Chapter 144. GGG, Imperial Translation, It's time to top up. Death Mage picked up his phone and knocked on the screen. On the screen, it showed that his balance was not enough. Sun Fong was about to collapse. 2 hours ago, she had given him 500 yuan. Are you eating money? It's gone so quickly. He did not bring much money with him when he left the sect this time. He only had a few thousand yuan on him because he was bent on revenge. Seeing that the woman on the sofa did not have any reaction, Death Mage started typing on his phone. If you're not going to top up, I'm leaving. A blatant threat. So many young geniuses have come up the mountain to ask for her hand in marriage, but this sect leader has never bothered with them. But now, I'm asking a skeleton to stay. This is retribution. Sun Fong threw the phone on the table and coldly shouted, "Charge." Death Mage was not courteous at all, and he immediately started transferring the money to the bank. His actions were done in one go, and it seemed like he had done this many times before. On the other hand, Sun Fong was very angry. Picking up her own sword, she fiercely chopped towards Death Mage's head until the web between her thumb and forefinger started bleeding. However, the black robe that Death Mage was wearing was not even cut open. Seeing that Death Mage had returned the phone to her, Sun Fong took it over. However, when he saw the balance on the card, it was as if he had been struck by lightning. 1 yuan. Sun Fong immediately snatched over Death Mage's phone, only to see that there were more than 10 gold coins, and he actually rushed all of them. Sun Fong covered her forehead and slumped weakly on the sofa. Then, she raised her sword and slashed again. As she slashed, she cursed, "You bastard, I'll chop you to death. How dare you use my money to play games? You don't want to eat, but I still want to eat. I'll hack you to death." Ah! Bu. Sun Fong was speechless. Looking at the cigars on the table, Sun Fong's gaze hardened. She took one out, walked into the kitchen, and took out a blue bottle from her backpack. Ecstasy powder. This poison was in the form of powder and could be added to drinking water. It could also be ignited and floated in the air. It was an essential medicine for killing and robbing people. Furthermore, it was extremely precious. Sun Fong did not want to waste it, but she had no other choice. He added the ecstasy powder into the cigar. "Suck you to death, you bastard." After she was done, Sun Fong took a deep breath and walked out of the kitchen. Looking at Death Mage, who was playing the game with a serious expression, Yu Yang slowly walked over and stretched out the cigar in his hand. Without even looking at Sun Fong, Death Mage took the cigar and placed it on his mouth. Seeing that Death Mage did not have the intention to start a fire, Sun Fong let out a breath and calmed herself down. Picking up the lighter, Yu Yang personally lit the fire for Death Mage. The southern girl was actually reduced to lighting a fire for a skeleton. She really wanted to die. But he was about to die. Death Mage took a deep breath. Smoke had yet to come out from his mouth, but his body was already smoking. Sun Fong's gaze congealed. Looking at the drifting smoke, she seemed to have thought of something, and immediately covered her nose and ran towards the window. Fiercely opening the window, Sun Fong took a deep breath. She was so angry that she became muddle-headed. GGG, Imperial Translation, How fragrant. Cough cough cough. Sun Fong leaned against the window and coughed violently. She even coughed up blood. Death Mage played around and smoked whatever he wanted to, but he was completely fine. On the other hand, Death Mage himself was poisoned. Before he could take his revenge, he would die in front of his enemy. Most importantly, he had poisoned himself to death. Heavens! What did I, Sun Fong, do wrong to make you treat me like this? Death Mage took a look at the woman who was leaning against the window and thought to himself, this woman is too stingy. Didn't I just use a few coins from you? Just because of this, he wanted to commit suicide. Sun Fong turned around and glared at Death Mage. Even if I'm going to die, I'm going to turn into a ghost and kill him. Death Mage sighed powerlessly, then shot out a black fog from his bony finger into Sun Fong's body. Sun Fong laughed coldly. You don't need to do anything. This sect leader is going to die too. However, I won't let you off in this lifetime. At the moment of death, Sun Fong suddenly felt that her breathing was smooth. Her feet were no longer numb, and her hands were no longer sore. She could climb several floors in one breath. Why? Why must even death be exploited? Sun Fong threw herself on the sofa and cried loudly, looking so wronged and helpless. Bu, there was nothing more important than fishing in this world. Beside the waterfall, Lai Gu had yet to return. Qingya's little face was blushing red as she threw the small stones, scaring the little fishes underwater to the point that they started swimming in all directions. This woman is so terrifying. Sneaking a glance at Yi Hua, she discovered that Yi Hua was also looking at her, and her heart started beating wildly. This scoundrel, everything that he said in the past were all lies, and right now, he actually dares to make a move on me, damn scoundrel. That's right. I forgot to ask him about that matter. No, I still have to ask him clearly. If it really doesn't work, I'll just run. With a blushing face, Qingya pulled Yi Hua into the tent again. The few people outside the tent went into a daze. The lady boss's desire is really not satisfied. Seeing that Qingya was so anxious, Yi Hua smiled lightly. What? It is not even night time yet, and you are already impatient. Impatient my ass, let me ask you something. Qingya said solemnly. Come into my embrace first. Can you be a bit more serious? I like the feeling of hugging you. Qingya went into a daze. Did this man become enlightened recently? He knows how to make me happy now. However, being able to hear what Yi Hua said, Qingya still felt sweet in her heart. She shifted her body and leaned into Yi Hua's embrace. Meanwhile, Yi Hua lightly hugged the woman in his embrace and caressed her beautiful hair, feeling very comfortable. Didn't you say that you were going to take wedding photos? You choose a date. Yi Hua said faintly. Qingya smiled, her smile was exceptionally beautiful, and said tenderly, then, you better not regret it. Do I look like someone who will regret it? Bragging again. Yi Hua stretched out his hand and flicked Qingya's forehead. Why did you hit me again? I like it. Qingya rubbed onto her forehead and said earnestly, I have something to ask you. Speak. Are you being chased? Qingya sat up and looked at Yi Hua nervously. Meanwhile, Yi Hua was also stupefied by Qingya's question. I, the Supreme Overlord, am being chased. What a huge joke. However, looking at Qingya's nervous expression, Yi Hua decided to tease this foolish woman. Suddenly, Yi Hua's expression became downcast. Looking at Yi Hua's expression, Qingya knew that she guessed correctly. Yi Hua, don't scare me. Yi Hua let out a heavy sigh. Qingya, it is still not too late for you to leave now. Hearing what Yi Hua said, Qingya's beautiful eyes immediately turned red, and she hugged onto Yi Hua's waist. I don't want to. GGG. I, the Supreme Overlord, am able to see through your heart with just a little bit of tricks. Properly give birth to the child. Yi Hua said gravely. Qingya sobbed uncontrollably. Yi Hua, let's run. I will go and sell the company, that money is more than enough for us to use. Yi Hua was slightly startled. I know that the company is very important to Qingya, and right now, Qingya is actually willing to sell the company for me. Lightly caressing onto the foolish woman in his embrace, Yi Hua said faintly, where are we going then? Anywhere is fine. Chapter 145. Qingya was anxious, then what should we do? Let's call the police. No, it's completely useless. Looking at Qingya's expression, Yihua finally couldn't help but laugh. Qingya went into a daze for a moment, then said fiercely, "Are you playing with me? You are the one who is too stupid. It's already good enough that I don't chase after others. You! I was so worried about you just now, and you still dare to tease me, Yihua. I will fight it out with you. Humph, come at me." Immediately, the tent began to shake violently. The people outside were all stupefied. This is too passionate, right? However, Lai Gu still hasn't returned. At this very moment, at a place 10 kilometers away from the waterfall, there was a place surrounded by green trees, birds were chirping, and flowers were fragrant. It was a pretty good utopia, but the precondition was that there was no one around. Although it looked like there was no one around, if one were to carefully sense it, the surroundings were filled with people, and they were just using a special technique to conceal themselves. In the cave at the side, a few big shots were gathered together. Their expressions were stern, and they were discussing something. That's right. They are the people from the north, and they are here to snatch something. Among them, there was an old face, Tang Wushuang. What was worth noting was that beside Tang Wushuang, there was a handsome man who had an imposing appearance, and he faintly gave off the aura of a person in a high position. He was the northern hidden aristocratic family, Yi Shao. Everyone present was very respectful towards him, and they didn't dare to offend him. The other three people were from sects with strength in the north. Supreme Intent Pavilion Master, Ichi Feng Sumra Lane Master, Shuzhenhai Phoenix King Pavilion Master, Man Kai. Although these powers weren't the full strength of the north, they were still a sharp sword that pierced the enemy's heart at the crucial moment. Yi family head, since you are here this time, I reckon that you will be able to get twice the result with half the effort. Supreme Intent Pavilion Master He Feng said with a smile. This person was rather skinny, and he looked a bit wretched. Yi Shao swept his gaze across everyone and said, "I am here because of Brother Tang's invitation." A single sentence caused the three big shots to hold back. Hidden aristocratic families are indeed awesome, aren't they? They still want to keep the ancient godly item for themselves, but they are too embarrassed to show themselves. If the other hidden aristocratic families were to find out, they would incur the wrath of the public and be attacked by the public. Big Brother Yi, I am afraid. Tang Wushuang cupped his hands and said with a smile. To be able to invite Yi Shao, it could be said that Tang Wushuang had put in a lot of effort, and the price he had to pay was to rely on Yi clan in the future. However, as long as he could obtain an ancient godly item, who could tell what would happen in the future? Yi Shao patted on Tang Wushuang's shoulder. When the time comes, just leave the opponent's experts to me. As for the ancient godly item, you must definitely get your hands on it. We can't let the southerners take it. Don't worry, Big Brother Yi. I will do my best. The owner of Sumra Lane, Shuzhenhai, was a big fatty. His face was oily and shiny, and he looked like a pig. This was the most appropriate description. To be on the safe side, I've also called for backup. Shuzhenhai clapped his hands. Yi Shao saw a black figure walk in from outside the cave, and an oppressive feeling assaulted him. He could not help but frown, and two words appeared in his mind. An expert. This person was wearing a black cloak. That's right. He was the man from the arcade. The Phoenix King Pavilion Master smiled. Everyone sure is cautious. Yi Zhao's expression quickly darkened. Let me introduce. Shu Zhenhai's chin trembled, and his pair of eyes were about to sink into his flesh. The cloaked man snorted, "No need, I am called Emperor Tsang." Such arrogant words. Yi Zhao's eyes narrowed. I hate this kind of man who likes to act cool the most. To think that he would even dare to act cool in front of me, especially when his name has the word Emperor in it. Emperor Tsang's pitch-black eyes immediately looked towards Yi Zhao. Yi Zhao snorted. If you want to play, I will play with you. They looked at each other. Don't look down on this kind of looking at each other, there was a lot to pay attention to. Because when the two of them were releasing their aura, the one who was weaker would definitely move his gaze first. However, 1 minute later, the two of them seemed to be evenly matched. If they were to continue competing, it might cause a commotion, and it wouldn't be good if they were discovered by others. The two of them seemed to have come to an agreement, and they retracted their gaze at the same time. Emperor Tsang didn't expect that these people would be able to invite such external help. The strength of the external help is not bad, but it will disrupt my plans. Brother Tang, since it's like this, I will be leaving first. Yi Xiao said faintly, then turned around and left. In actuality, coming here this time was a very big risk. If the other aristocratic families were to find out about this, the consequences would be unthinkable. Right now, I just happen to have an excuse to leave, just that I lack the strength of Tang family. Forget it, compared to Tang family's vote, Yi family itself is the most important. Big brother Yi. Tang Wushuang didn't want Yi Xiao to leave just like that. With Yi Xiao around, the chances of me snatching the ancient godly item would be higher. If Yi Xiao was determined to leave, no one would be able to make him stay. On the other hand, Xu Zhenhai was smiling to the point that his eyes couldn't be seen. With Yi Xiao leaving, things will be much easier to deal with. Tang Wushuang's expression was extremely bad. I won't let them take advantage of me. After snorting coldly, Tang Wushuang left as well. Before the battle even started, two of the North's great generals had already left. This could only mean that they weren't united, or that it was because of Emperor Tsang's arrival. Everyone, let's talk about the plan. Emperor Tsang looked at the three people in front of him and said with a smile. On the surface, I was invited over by Xu Zhenhai, but in private, I have already reached an agreement with Yifeng and Man Kai, just that they didn't know about it. Especially this fatty, the other two are much smarter than you. Man Kai kept his smile and said gravely, this time, there is only us from the north, the others did not make a move. After all, almost all of the South's powers are here, and the South's aristocratic families might even be secretly protecting us, not to mention those mysterious existences from the South. Last time, we let Xiao Yi take advantage of us. This time, when we went to invite him over, he went into closed-door training. Xu Zhenhai snorted coldly. Yifeng shook his sleeves, he already has a Xianyuan sword, if he were to come and snatch the ancient godly item from us, then he would be the one who doesn't know what's good for him. Emperor Tsang didn't say anything and closed his eyes to listen. After a long while, Emperor Tsang slowly said, when the ancient godly item is unearthed, the South will definitely be the first to snatch the ancient godly item. Xu Zhenhai laughed loudly, what Emperor Tsang said is right, when the ancient godly item is unearthed, the South will definitely be the first to snatch the ancient godly item. Yifeng and Man Kai laughed but didn't say anything. You are still counting the money after being sold. Looking at the three idiots, Emperor Tsang revealed out a trace of an evil smile. Report. A disciple from Extreme Will Pavilion could be seen running over quickly. Pavilion Master, we can't get in touch with a team that was arranged 10 miles away. Yifeng's gaze became serious, I will go and take a look. Wait. Emperor Tsang said. Yifeng looked at Emperor Tsang suspiciously. The war is imminent, don't create unnecessary problems. If we were to fall into the enemy's trap, it would be bad. Just send someone over to take a look. Yifeng heaved a sigh of relief, then immediately gave the order. Thinking about it, he felt a lingering fear. If they had gone over rashly just now and fallen into the enemy's trap, then it would be over. Chapter 146. Beside the waterfall. Lai Gu had not returned yet. Yi Hua and Qingye, who was flushed red, walked out of the tent together. Qingye covered her pretty face with her hands, and she almost didn't have the face to see anyone. Didn't I just leave you hanging for a few days? How can there be such a vengeful person who is so aggressive? Your figure is getting better and better. Yihua said with a smile, then went back to fishing. Towards this kind of teasing, what else could Qingye do? I can only hope that the heavens will send down divine power to smack Yihua's butt and let him know how formidable I am. Looking at the smile on his honor's face, Wei Chang felt very happy as well. His honor is becoming more and more like a human. Congratulations on your honor regaining your wife's heart. Easy. Yihua picked up the fishing rod, indicating that he would be able to easily catch Qingye. What do you mean by easy? Qingye walked over and questioned Wei Chang. Wei Chang immediately turned his head around, expressing that he did not know anything. Yihua tossed out his fishing rod and snorted, I said that fishing is easy. Qingye took a look at the bucket beside Yihua, it was really a piece of cake. I don't believe that no fish will take the bait. Not only was Lai Gu unable to catch any fishes, Yihua who was his honor was also the same. However, Yihua was still able to sit still. Looking at Wei Chang, there were countless small fishes and a few big fishes. Give me the fishing rod. Qingye shouted out. The people at the back immediately sent fishing rods. He skillfully hooked up the bait and cast the fishing rod. What are you looking at? Haven't you seen me fishing before? Qingye rolled her eyes at Yihua. BB. Let's compete then, what are we betting on? Qingye was in a good mood and said tenderly. Speak. That's good. The loser has to buy breakfast for a week. Qingye raised her chin and said confidently. All right. This stupid woman still wants to win. Doesn't she know that if I, the Supreme Overlord, want to win is actually very simple? All I have to do is to slightly move my hands and feet. The corner of Wei Chang's mouth rose. His honor is even going to cheat in a bet with the madam, so he will definitely win. No, wait. He could cheat in his bet with Tang Bingyao and easily win the prize. His honor is truly brilliant. Every single action of his honor is able to benefit me greatly, and every single word of his honor contains all kinds of profound principles. His honor is becoming more and more powerful. After a long while. I'm not fishing anymore. You cheated. Qingye snorted. A loss is a loss. Yihua said faintly. Qingye said petulantly, next time when you cheat, can you not be so exaggerated? You have to understand balance. Equilibrium. That's right, look at the inside of your bucket, you have been fishing for the entire morning and there is still not a single fish in your bucket. On the other hand, after fishing with me for half an hour, my bucket was completely filled. This cheating is way too obvious. If you were to control the number of fish that we have together, in the end, you would be able to win with a small advantage. At that time, no one would know that you were cheating, you are so stupid. Qingye stretched out her finger and poked Yihua's forehead. Logically speaking, Yihua would definitely fly into a rage. However, he didn't, because Yihua had figured out a problem. This problem had even appeared in the 7 deadly sins in the past, and after Qingye explained it to him, Yihua immediately understood the problem. Leveling was the work of a boorish man. A wise man could control a boorish man. Yihua stretched out his hand and pinched onto Qingye's face. All right, I will buy it for you. Humph, humph, this is more like it. Quickly remove your spell, I still want to fish. Qingye laughed tenderly. I feel that Yihua's temper is much better right now. After a long while, Yihua said faintly, a certain someone's ability to act cool has not changed at all. You must have cheated again. Then, what is the reason for me to cheat? Yihua lit up a cigarette and asked. Qingye pouted her mouth, isn't it because you want to see me make a fool of myself? I'm not that bored. Yihua's index finger slightly moved, and the shoal of fishes under the water began swimming freely again. All right, I, Yihua, am just that bored. Wei Chang, who was at the side, memorized every single action of his honor. The more he thought about it, the more astonished he became. This is too profound. I feel that I and Xiao Tang will be able to do that very soon. Boss, I am back. Lai Gu could be seen carrying Wen Xia, who was unconscious, and walking out from the forest at the side. After placing Wen Xia into his tent, Lai Gu ran over to fish happily. After sitting for a while, Lai Gu felt that the atmosphere wasn't right and asked puzzledly, "What's wrong? How many hours have you been gone for?" Wei Chang asked. "Not that long, just a few hours." Lai Gu said indifferently. "Seems like today can be considered to be rather short." Yihua turned his head around and looked towards Qingye. Qingye immediately knew what Yihua was thinking about, and she immediately punched towards Yihua. Bai Xiaozhen walked over to the tent and checked on Wen Xiao's injuries. Bai Xiaozhen and Tang Wei continued to take care of the food. "Xiao Tang, you take care of this place first, I will be back very soon," Yihua said gravely. "All right, Sister Iran." After saying that, Yihua disappeared, because she felt that there were some small flies that came over to disturb the boss's rest. A few minutes later, Yihua came back, and not even a strand of his hair floated out. Yihua and the others naturally felt that Yihua came back, and he said to Lai Gu and Wei Chang, "Both of you did well. Thank you for your praise, boss." Chapter 147. Long and City's wealthy merchant Yu Yusi hurriedly ran over and said, "Alliance Master Hai, what do you think?" "Yusi, take the treasures and leave." Hai Daisi's gaze was fixed on the white jade coffin. As long as he could obtain this ancient godly item, the special ability world would no longer need to be afraid of the cultivation world. Hai Daisi could almost see the rise of the Esper world. Yusi and a few other rich merchants immediately left. There was going to be a fight soon, so it was better for ordinary people to leave as soon as possible. The ordinary people quickly retreated, but at this time, countless people appeared in the air and on the ground. They stood behind their leaders, and tens of thousands of people surrounded the white jade coffin. A great battle was about to break out. Wang Debao stood out and said with a smile, "How are we going to split this ancient godly item?" "Of course not," Zhou Exayan Ran of the Zhou family said calmly. The pavilion master of Traceless Pavilion, Gai Jing, laughed out loud. "How about rock paper scissors? I'm quite knowledgeable about it." "Heh, childish. I know a new way to play fight the landlord. Why don't we have a showdown to prevent blood from flowing like a river?" Dry Zen sect's Che Zhishuan shouted. Cloud sect's new sect master, Sun Yi, said with a tender voice, "Everyone, please calm down. I feel that all ancient godly items have their own consciousness, and they will definitely choose their own master." Ji Anyan of the Ji family adjusted his glasses and sneered, "What right does a woman who has slept with all the elders have to speak?" Sun Yi's gaze turned cold. "Watch your mouth." The Guang clan's clan head, Guang Tianlu, who had been silent all this while, said indifferently, "If you don't sleep with the elders, would you be able to ascend to the position so quickly?" "How dare you? Our sect master is not someone you can slander." Cloud sect's disciples shouted loudly, all of them drawing their swords. Sunny smiled faintly and said, "There's no proof for your words. It seems like my Cloud sect has something to say. In that case, we can only fight with our true strength." Wang Debao spread out his hands, "Let's fight then. Fight until there is only one clan left, and the ancient godly item will be his." The few big shots nodded their heads. How could there be no bloodshed when snatching an ancient godly item? Just as the few parties were preparing to start fighting, a lump of black void appeared in the middle of the battlefield. Death Mage could be seen walking out with a scythe in his hand and a cigar in his mouth. There was also a woman hugging onto him. Everyone present was dumbfounded. Sun Fong, who was in Death Mage's embrace, was also stupefied. 1 minute ago. In the rented apartment. Death Mage had already charged his phone fully, Just in case his phone ran out of battery while he was playing, he did not want to top up his balance for the time being. Dry Zen sect Master Che Zhishuan said faintly, Sun Fang indeed didn't look for a man, what she looked for was a skeleton. When Che Zhishuan said those words, everyone laughed. Sun Fang had a bewildered look on her face as she pushed Death Mage away and took a few steps forward woodenly. You all have misunderstood, it isn't what you all think. Sun Fang roared loudly. Why is everyone misunderstanding me? How can I possibly be together with a skeleton? I want to take revenge. Traceless Pavilion's Gaijing said faintly, Sun Fang, you disappoint me too much. I didn't expect that you are this kind of woman. You truly threw away the face of our cultivation world. Sect Master Sun, quickly go back to your daddy skeleton's embrace. Daddy skeleton's fingers are very long, but they are too thin. My fingers are just right for you, do you want them or not? Those disciples immediately started using their taunting skills. Sun Fang clenched her fists tightly, and upon seeing that, Death Mage immediately released the seal on Sun Fang. Boom! Sun Fang's body could be seen emitting a bright light that soared straight into the sky, lighting up everything within a radius of a mile. Everyone was stupefied. She actually broke through at this time. A purple longsword condensed in Sun Fang's hand, and light immediately shot out in all directions. Why aren't you all willing to believe me? Why? Sun Fang roared towards the sky, then casually waved the purple longsword in her hand. A purple crescent-shaped sword chi pierced through the sky and slashed towards the crowd of people. The sword chi slashed out a deep ravine, and within the ravine, severed limbs were all from those people who were mocking her just now. A red light flashed past Death Mage's eyes. This woman is very savage. No wonder his honor wanted her to fall madly in love with me, that way, I would be able to make use of her. His honor is truly formidable. Sun Yi's expression sunk as she shouted out loudly, Senior Martial Sister has fallen into the demonic path, kill her. Sure enough, following Sun Yi's shout, all of Cloud's sect's disciples rushed towards the former sect master. Meanwhile, the other powers that were at the side also started making their move, and several tens of thousands of people started attacking a weak and small woman. Sun Fang slowly put down the long sword in her hand and closed her beautiful eyes. Death is the best release. After waiting for a long time, the pain that Sun Fang imagined didn't come. When Sun Fang opened her eyes, a black robe appeared in front of Sun Fang. Sun Fang was holding onto his scythe, and all of the people in the surroundings were sent flying away by the scythe. Why? Why is it that in the end, it is still my enemy who came to save me? And my family members that I used to be in love with. Chapter 148. Everyone didn't think the black robe would leave so easily. They all thought he would help Sun Fang. Zhua Xan Ran was very annoyed. Sun Fang killed all his people just now. Just as he was about to take revenge, the person disappeared. Don't you think so? Wang Debao chuckled. Alright, let's open the coffin first. Yes, let's open the coffin first. It won't be too late to snatch it then. Hai Dicey laughed. However, everyone held their breaths. Just what kind of ancient godly item was inside the coffin? Yun sect sent out 4 disciples to open the coffin. Those 4 disciples were extremely nervous. Coffin. There must be someone inside. And the ancient godly item was inside the coffin. Maybe it was the guardian of the ancient godly item. Now that the coffin was opened, what if the corpse came back to life? Hurry up! Sun Yi shouted coldly. Dilly-dallying. The 4 disciples didn't dare to waste any more time. They stood at the 4 corners of the coffin, took a deep breath and channeled their energy. Zzz. The white jade coffin emitted a heart-wrenching sound, and no one dared to breathe too loudly. When the coffin lid was opened, the 4 disciples were shocked. A 7 to 8-year-old little girl laid inside. Her hair was tied into 2 ponytails and she was wearing a beautiful princess dress. Though her eyes were closed, she looked very cute. Her baby fat face made people want to touch it. But no matter how attractive she was, it wasn't as important as the thing in the little girl's hands. Ancient godly item. Yun Sek's disciples' faces darkened. They were the first to snatch it. Hai Daisi humphed. He waved his hands and used wind magic. The 4 people from Yun sect were blown into the sky and turned into 4 stars. Sect leader Sun, good plan. Gu Zheng's eyes were filled with anger. Sunny scolded him for being an idiot and squeezed out a smile. It's inevitable that there will be a few traitors in our sect. On the side, Wang Debao was discussing something with the other 3 patriarchs. It wasn't anything good. Che Zhishuan lifted the coffin up with one hand. It stood upright and faced everyone. Seeing the person and the item inside the coffin, everyone gasped. It was a cute little loli. But no matter how cute she was, she couldn't be as cute as the item in her hands. 9 Demons Punishing Tower. Che Zhishuan's gaze froze and mumbled. Everyone, including Wang Debao, was shocked when they heard that. Is this the legendary 9 Demons Punishment Tower? Zhou Xinran exclaimed as he stared at the tower in the little loli's hands. The pagoda in the little loli's hand wasn't very big. It was about the size of an adult's palm and had 9 levels. The pagoda was ink black, and if one looked closely, they would see that each level was emitting a black fog that surrounded it. Yang Yi looked at the 9 demons Xing pagoda and muttered, "It is rumored that countless ancient godly items were dropped during the Great War of Gods and Demons. However, the ancient godly items that have appeared since ancient times have always represented justice. This time, it is actually a demonic creature. 9 Demons Punishing Tower. Unbelievable. Legend has it that once this pagoda appears, blood will flow like a river." Gu Jing frowned, and his tone was filled with hesitation. He didn't know whether he should snatch it or not. Sun Yi snorted and said, "Who cares if it's a demon or a god, as long as it's an ancient godly item, it's fine. If you guys don't want it, I want it." As soon as she finished speaking, Sun Yi's delicate body leaped up and she took the initiative to snatch it. Hai Daisi laughed disdainfully, condensing a large fireball with one hand and throwing it out. Sun Yi pulled out her sword. Insignificant skill. The sword easily destroyed the large fireball. However, at this moment, Yang Yi attacked from the side. Sun Yi hurriedly defended, but was still kicked away by Yang Yi. Luckily, she didn't roll on the ground, or else she would have lost a lot of face. "Yang Yi. How dare you sneak attack me?" Sun Yi frowned and questioned in a low voice. Hai Daisi and Yang Yi slowly walked to the center and nodded at each other. Then, they said, "This thing is inauspicious. Burying it underground is the best choice." Guang Tianlu shouted, "Alliance leader Hai, sect leader Yang, shouldn't we wait for it to be buried so that you can take it for yourselves?" Yang Yi shouted seriously, "Everyone. This demonic pagoda bewitches people's hearts. It is rumored that even the gods have been bewitched by it." "That's right. This 9 demons punishment tower imprisons the souls of ancient demonic beasts. The higher it is, the more ferocious it is. The one imprisoned at the top is even a demon king. At that time, it won't be you controlling the pagoda, but the pagoda controlling you." Hai Daisi shouted angrily. However, this kind of advice didn't make them afraid. Instead, they wanted to obtain this pagoda. Wang Debao raised his head and asked loudly, "How do the 2 of you know so much?" "Humph, how would an outsider like you know our clan's secrets?" Yang Yi said disdainfully. Zhou Xinran cracked his neck. "I heard it from the grapevine. You just want to take it for yourself." As soon as he finished speaking, Awaken Ran suddenly summoned his armor and a long green blade appeared in his right hand. Instantly, he was fully armed and emitted a terrifying amount of spiritual energy. Not only Awaken Ran, but Wang Debao also summoned his equipment. Ji Anyan didn't fully arm himself. Instead, he took out a book and muttered a few words. Instantly, a huge flaming beast appeared. Roar! The huge beast let out an angry roar that shook the heavens and earth. Guang Tianlu took out 3 cards and threw them out. The 3 cards glowed with a white light and turned into 3 dipper wolves. Each dipper wolf was stepping on green flames. It was extremely strange. It was rare for the heads of the 4 great clans of the south to make a move. This caused everyone in the cultivation world to gasp in surprise. As expected of the leaders of the clans. Even so, it seemed like both sides were still clamoring and didn't dare to make a move. If they did, blood would flow like a river. Just as everyone was hesitating, the 9 demons punishing pagoda in the coffin suddenly left their hands and floated in the air. Everyone's eyes were staring at the 9 demons punishing pagoda in the air, their eyeballs almost popping out of their sockets. Instantly, the 9 demons punishing pagoda charged towards Sun Yi. Sun Yi was overjoyed and caught it. This ancient godly item belongs to me, Sun Yi. Wang Debao shouted, "Kill! Kill! Kill!" The scene instantly became chaotic. Fighting started instantly. Not far away, Sky Emperor watched everything with a confident smile on his face. Kill! Kill to your heart's content. The 9 demons punishing pagoda is mine. In the midst of the battle, the disciples of the 2 sects chatted as they fought. The whole battle was probably still going on even after everyone else died. Don't you think it strange? What's strange? Pay attention to your expression and show some killing intent. Don't let them see through you. Look at the little loli in the coffin. This ancient godly item has been buried for at least 1,000 years. So what? Look at that little loli, she is even wearing a lace princess dress and a pair of dazzling diamond high heels. Were all people from 10,000 years ago so fashionable? Hearing you say it like that, it is indeed strange. Beside the waterfall, Wei Chang and Lai Gu's expressions were a bit strange, while Yihua's expression was still as indifferent as before. The little loli in the coffin is truly pitiful, dying at such a young age. Qingye couldn't help but say. Only now did I know that the television didn't lie. For the sake of a treasure, people were willing to kill each other. Chapter 149. Qingye looked at the little loli in the coffin and said, "That's right, she is so cute, it is such a pity that she died." Wei Chang and Lai Gu took a look at each other and revealed a helpless expression. "Stop looking, the dishes are getting cold," Yihua warned. "This woman is already mesmerized by the scene. Stop messing around, let me see the result." "There are so many people fighting over that tower, Yihua, why don't you go and fight over it?" Qingye asked curiously. Yihua lit up his cigarette and said faintly, "What is there to fight over for trash?" Qingye rolled her eyes at Yihua. "Look at you, you're acting cool after smoking is acting up again." Sigh. Yihua couldn't help but stretch out his hand and pinch that smooth little face. "Eat your food." Humph. Although Qingye started eating, her gaze was still on the scene. The others had already finished eating and were currently looking at the result. Yihua leaned on the chair and smoked while looking at the little loli in the coffin. The scene was extremely tragic. Out of the tens of thousands of people, only 1,000 were left. Although the big shots didn't die, they were injured. Right now, the 9-demon punishment tower was like a hot potato, whoever took it would be beaten up. This caused the ancient godly item to be thrown onto the ground like a piece of scrap metal. Boom boom boom. Under the bombardment from the cultivation world, the fire beast fell onto the ground. Ji Anyan coughed out a mouthful of blood, and the family members immediately went up to support him. Everyone, I will be leaving first. Ji Anyan held onto his chest. Summoning the fire beast consumed too much of his energy. I didn't expect that the cultivation world's weaklings would be so strong. It will take at least a year for me to recover my strength. Wang Debao's expression sunk. Ji Anyan, you are leaving just like that. Wang Debao, farewell. Wang Debao almost coughed out a mouthful of blood. Sue your ass. Scum. The cultivation world is indeed a sect that has existed for thousands of years, their foundation is endless. Families that have existed for tens of years are unable to withstand their bombardment. Wang Debao's gaze became serious. I'm afraid that the ancient godly item is going to fall into the hands of the cultivation world. Emperor Tsang, who was watching the battle, was already getting restless. He just had to wait a little longer. Now that one of them had left, the various patriarchs were already unable to withstand the attacks from the cultivation world. Very soon, it would turn into an internal strife in the cultivation world. At that time, while they were fighting to the death, he would be able to sit back and reap the benefits. Wouldn't that be great? In a corner of the field, two disciples were still fighting. The people around them had all fallen, leaving only the two of them alive. This seemed a little fake. You or me. Let's fall together. If we continue to pretend, we'll be exposed. All right. Pour it out together. The two of them seemed to be talking as they flew backwards. However, one of them landed on a corpse. Puff. Brother, be gentle. F***ck, brother, you're pretending to be dead too. Stop talking. Play dead. However, not far away from them, the 9 demons punishing pagoda that no one wanted suddenly rose into the sky and flew into the distance. The people who were fighting were shocked and immediately followed him out. Emperor Tsang's heart sank. Seeing a large number of people flying over, could it be that he had been exposed? Unexpectedly, when a black shadow appeared, Grey Emperor was overjoyed. He caught it in his hand and felt a familiar smell. People from the north. Che Zhishuan shouted and a few poisons appeared in his hand. It was one thing for him to snatch it from the south, but the people from the north were here too. What was this? At this moment, the people who were fighting seemed to be united as they attacked Emperor Tsang's group. The 3 people behind Emperor Tsang were so scared that they peed their pants. They didn't have a good grasp of the plot at all. It was a complete collapse. They couldn't care less about the contract. They just wanted to run first. Emperor Tsang didn't care about this at all. His goal was to get the 9 demons punishing pagoda in his hands. Now that he had achieved it, what else did he need them for? Who are you? Sunny pointed her sword at Emperor Tsang and shouted. Emperor Tsang raised the 9 demons punishing pagoda and shouted, I am Emperor Tsang. Everyone was stunned. They had never heard of such a strange name. Emperor Tsang. 4 words and it sounded so strange. Could he be Master Tsang's man? Emperor Tsang had a cold smile on his face. Come and worship me. Now that the 9 demons punishing pagoda is in my hands, who can defeat me? As long as I release the vengeful spirits in the 9 demons punishing pagoda, all of you will die. 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 However, just as Emperor Tsang was about to show off his might, the southern expert in front of him flew away. Stupefied, Emperor Tsang was stunned. He raised his head and looked at his hand. The 9 demons punishing pagoda had disappeared. An unprecedented rage erupted in Emperor Tsang's heart. Boom! With Emperor Tsang at the center, a shockwave spread out in all directions. The shockwave immediately resonated with the heavens and earth. Meanwhile, Emperor Tsang transformed into a lump of black fog and chased after the shockwave. The 9 demons punishing pagoda belongs to me, Emperor Tsang. Don't even think of getting it. All of Emperor Tsang's plans were disrupted. Right now, he could only snatch the pagoda forcefully. Right now, at the center of the battlefield, there was a river of blood on the ground. There were still a lot of people who were still alive lying on the ground and wailing in pain. There were also a lot of people who were pretending to be dead who were observing the situation. Within the white jade coffin, the little loli who had her eyes closed suddenly opened her beautiful eyes. Her eyes were bright red, and if one were to look closely, one could see complicated black patterns within her eyes. However, when paired with her face, her eyes were truly adorable. The little loli could be seen grinning as she lightly floated out of the coffin. Soon after, she landed on the ground, and a pair of pure white heels stepped onto the blood. La la la, la la la, I am an expert in killing. The little loli's sweet melody rang out in the hell-like venue. She ran and jumped about, and the blood on the ground splattered onto her white princess dress, gradually dyeing the dress into a bright red color. The white diamond high heels that were originally white were also dyed red. Boom! Suddenly, lightning flashed and thunder rumbled, and a heavy rain started pouring down. At this moment, the scene could really be described as a river of blood. La la la, la la la, where are you guys? The little loli jumped and jumped as she searched for them. The two who were pretending to be dead just now could no longer hold back the fear in their hearts, and their bodies started trembling. That little loli that was within the coffin actually woke up. What was I supposed to say? There is definitely something wrong with that little loli, since when did the ancients wear princess dresses? Found you? A sweet voice rang out beside his ears. The man swallowed a mouthful of saliva, and his entire body was trembling as he slowly turned his head around. Although the little loli in front of him was adorable, this kind of adorableness carried a deep sense of brutality. The corner of her mouth that was slightly raised caused one's heart to stiffen. You won't be able to escape. The little loli's ponytail suddenly rose up. The man couldn't help but want to escape, but that was impossible. He could only watch as the ponytail drilled into his mouth, and he could even feel that his hair was growing crazily in his mouth, from his head to his feet. No! She is sucking my blood essence. No! No! The man's miserable screams rang out in the spacious and empty venue, and the little loli's ponytail gradually turned from black to red. Looking at the man in front of her that had already withered up, the little loli retracted her ponytail. It wasn't easy for me to think of a way, but only this many people came. Hateful, what a waste of my brain cells. The little loli puffed up her cheeks and stomped her feet. Her ponytails immediately fluttered about, and no matter if it was dead or alive, she would stab it into the man's mouth and absorb it. Those who were dead already had no feeling, and they were considered lucky. However, those who were pretending to be dead felt as if their bones were being peeled off, and they were wailing unceasingly. The others didn't even bother with Tsang Di and continued flying. Emperor Tsang had never been ignored like this before, and he immediately flashed in front of everyone. You don't know how to appreciate favors. You really refuse a toast only to be forced to drink a forfeit. Today, I will exterminate all of you. Just as Grey Emperor was about to display his might, a shocking aura came from behind him. Grey Emperor thought that someone was sneaking up on him, so he slightly dodged. Wang Debao, who was in the group, was overjoyed. It was not a hidden weapon at all. The 9 demons punishing pagoda had flown back. And it's flying towards me, haha. As expected, Wang Debao's luck has never been bad. Even if it's snatching an ancient godly item, it's still a stroke of good luck. Wang Debao caught the 9 demons punishing pagoda, and to everyone's surprise, he turned around and ran without a second thought. Seeing this, Sui Xinran and Guang Tianlu both chose to retreat, while the other cultivators continued to chase after them. However, Grey Emperor did not move. His handsome face was filled with malevolence. Just who was it that was playing with him? Who was it? Looking back, not far away in the valley, there were traces of fire. Emperor Tsang clenched his fists tightly and an unending stream of spiritual energy erupted from his body. In an instant, the wind and clouds surged and thunder rumbled, as if the end of the world had arrived. He did not need the ancient godly item. But the person who played with him must die. Emperor Tsang immediately flew towards the valley with an astonishing aura. Yi Hua and the others did not leave the dining table. Everyone was quietly sitting on the table, seemingly waiting for something. Wei Chang and Lai Gu were a little abnormal, while the four maids were rather indifferent. As for Yi Hua, who was carrying Qinya in his embrace, he would either pinch her face or pinch her nose. In any case, he was just bullying her in various ways. Boom! A figure descended from the sky and created a huge splash, causing the ground to tremble. Beep, 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 the alarms of the two Qians rang out. Emperor Tsang looked at the people who were camping in front of him and revealed a look of doubt. Isn't that man the owner of the bar? There's also that security guard and that young man. There are also 4 people who are dressed in maid attire. What are they doing here? Thinking back to the black robe that appeared at the very beginning, Emperor Tsang seemed to have thought of something. We are just bait, and the black robe might be lying in ambush nearby. But so what? I, Emperor Tsang, can kill them with just a flick of my fingers. On the other hand, these women are all top grade, it would be a pity for them to die. Yi Hua didn't even look at Emperor Tsang, who was walking over and was still pinching Qinya's face. Wei Chang let out a breath. One of you, go and deal with them. The eyes of the 4 maids shone. Right now, even Tang Wei has fallen. Not only is she not afraid, she even has the desire to fight. Emperor Tsang looked at the 4 maids who stood up and walked to the side and whispered to each other. Soon after, he heard their sweet voices. Rock, paper, scissors. Rock, paper, scissors. Rock, paper, scissors. Ha, I won, Bai Xiaozhen shouted out happily and felt very embarrassed. The other 3 women pouted their mouths. This is a chance for me to show off. Not only can I show off in front of men, I can also show off in front of the boss. What kind of glory is this? I wonder when I will have to wait for the next time. Bai Xiaozhen placed her hands on her abdomen and slowly walked to the front of Emperor Tsang. Then, she said shyly, "Hello, I am your opponent." Emperor Tsang looked as if he had received a critical hit of 10,000 damage. His entire being was sinister and terrifying. They actually used rock, paper, scissors to decide who would go on stage. The main point was the women. And they even came over to greet you. Damn it, this isn't good. Tonight, my dignity was already trampled on twice. And yet, when I came here, I was humiliated again. And I was even humiliated by a weak woman. To actually disregard my existence, don't blame me for being ruthless. Bai Xiaozhen appeared to be very embarrassed. Seeing that Emperor Tsang's face was twitching, Bai Xiaozhen thought that Emperor Tsang was sick. Just as the two were preparing to make their move, a sweet singing voice rang out from the forest. Little rabbit, be obedient, open the door, quickly open the door, I want, hee. Lai Gu's gaze became serious. Xiaozhen, come back. Bai Xiaozhen turned her head around and took a look at the man confusedly, then sighed and walked back. Emperor Tsang did not pay attention to Bai Xiaozhen and looked at the shadow in the forest. As the singing voice got closer and closer, the shadow finally appeared. Emperor Tsang's gaze was filled with astonishment. Isn't this little lowly the person inside the coffin? Why did she come out? The little lowly took a glance at the coffin, and her red pupils became even more dazzling. Little rabbits, you all have been hiding here, causing me to search for you all for so long. I don't even want to move anymore, I'm so tired. The little lowly fanned herself with her little hands. This action of hers was truly adorable. Emperor Tsang's expression distorted. The biggest humiliation of my entire life is tonight. Pretending to be mysterious. Emperor Tsang could be seen aiming his palms towards the little loli, and a black light could be seen gushing out from his body, causing the ground to immediately cave in. Destroy you yumming. Chapter 151. Emperor Tsang retracted his palms and stared ahead. The dust gradually dissipated, revealing a gigantic semicircular chasm in front of him. It was as though a gigantic machine had excavated a mountain range. Emperor Tsang's gaze changed from indifference to calmness, then gradually changed to shock, and finally revealed a horrified expression. Looking at that black shadow, Emperor Tsang found it hard to believe. Shattering Yu Yumming was one of his ultimate moves, and no one had ever been able to withstand it. Not to mention being unscathed. But now, the little loli's pure white princess dress was spotless. Even her smile didn't change. Her two ponytails fluttered in the wind. The little loli covered her mouth and giggled, "Oh, hee hee, you're amazing." The four maids who were watching the battle were also stunned. Just who was this little loli? However, Yi Hua and the others appeared to be very calm. Sky Emperor's breathing quickened. The girl in front of him wasn't a little loli at all. She was a monster. As expected, the guardians of the ancient godly items were all abnormal existences. A wise man does not fight when the odds are against him. I will go and snatch the ancient godly equipment first. Sky Emperor did not hesitate, he turned and ran. The current him didn't care about his face at all. This little freak was completely unscathed under his finishing move, so his strength was definitely formidable. He might as well leave it to those people from Leisure Bar to deal with him, and it could be considered as using someone else to do his dirty work. The little loli smiled wickedly. Little bunny wants to run. That's not cute at all. The two ponytails shot out in an instant, and the escaping Tsang Di turned pale with fright. Unexpectedly, his left leg was entangled by the ponytails. Gray the Arch condensed a long saber in his hand and ruthlessly chopped down. Clang! The sound of metal clashing rang out. Tsang Di looked at the broken saber in his hand and revealed a look of fear. This was impossible. The ponytail was like a venomous snake. In an instant, it wrapped itself around Emperor Tsang's leg and pulled fiercely. Bang! Tsang Di's entire body smashed down like a cannonball, creating a huge splash and forming a huge pit. In the pit, Tsang Di's face was filled with panic. His entire body had been entangled by the ponytail, and no matter how he struggled, it was of no use. However, another ponytail slowly stretched out. Tsang Di stared at that strand of hair with a panicked expression, feeling even more terrified. Those hairs were actually small mouths with sharp teeth. No! No! Don't come over. Sky Emperor was completely flustered, but no one could save him now. The ponytail instantly pierced into Tsang Di's mouth, spreading all over his body, sucking up the delicious blood essence. Only to see that Sky Emperor's body was withering at a speed that the naked eye could see. In less than 10 seconds, only his skeleton and outer layer of skin were left. No one would be able to recognize that he was the famous Sky Emperor. And even though Emperor Tsang died, he didn't understand many things. The little loli licked her bright red lips, so delicious, much better than those. Retracting her ponytail, the little loli bounced over to a place not far away from Yi Hua and said with a slight smile, "Those are all little rabbits. You guys are the big tigers. Don't run away like little rabbits. If not, I will be very angry." Yi Hua lightly caressed Qinya, who was in his embrace, then looked at the little loli who was not far away from him and asked faintly, "What is your name?" The little loli pouted and poked her chin with her index finger. After thinking for a long time, she said, I'm not telling you." "Yi Zizi!" Yi Hua shouted gravely. Little Lolita's scarlet eyes were suddenly startled. She suddenly jumped back, and the smile on her face immediately disappeared. She asked coldly, "Who are you? Why do you know me?" Yihua stared at the little Loli's every movement and even the minute expression on her face, then shouted coldly, "Yi Zizi, do you know the consequences of lying to me?" The little Loli grinned and shook her ponytail, "Although I don't know why you know me, but you guys are really delicious, impudent." Impudent! Wei Chang and Lai Gu shouted out, and a burst of killing intent erupted out from their bodies. The little Loli spread out her hands and had a look of disdain on her face. She even took out a small mirror and looked at herself to see if her hairstyle had changed or not. Wei Chang and Lai Gu could clearly feel that his honor was really angry, and the two hurriedly said, "Boss, let us do it." Yihua knew what Wei Chang and Lai Gu were thinking. They wanted to protect her. That's right, Wei Chang and Lai Gu indeed wanted to protect the little Loli. If they were to take action, the little Loli would definitely not die, but if they were to let his honor take action, the little Loli would most likely die. Wei Chang and Lai Gu felt that his honor was just joking in the past. How could it be possible for the 7 sins to betray his honor? However, looking at the current situation, it was no different from betraying his honor. Although in the past, she was everyone's joy, and even when she took on a human's name, she still had the same surname as his honor, and even went so far as to give his honor a nickname, Big Bones. Within the 7 sins, only she, Yi Zizi, dared to address his honor as Big Bones. However, the current her was no longer the Yi Zizi from back then. Even if that was the case, Wei Chang and Lai Gu found it hard to believe what was happening in front of their eyes. Yihua took a deep breath, and his thoughts went back to a long time ago. He remembered that back then, Yi Zizi was still very small, just like a little doll. Back then, Yi Zizi was being surrounded by humans, and when I and the others passed by this place, we killed the humans. Originally, we were going to kill Yi Zizi, but one of the 7 sins could see that Yi Zizi was not a human, and thus, he spared Yi Zizi's life. Even now, Yihua could still remember that back then, Yi Zizi's eyes were scarlet red, and she had a look of not wanting to admit defeat. The facts proved that in the future, Yi Zizi would become an indispensable character within the 7 sins. Wei Chang only ate living humans, while Yi Zizi didn't even let the dead off. However, she had a bad personality, and that was that she was too lazy. If she could lie down, she would definitely not sit down. I really don't know where she learned this bad habit from. From what happened today, it could be seen that Yi Zizi didn't want to go to the 7 sins one by one, and instead, she wanted to use an ancient godly item to lure the 7 sins over and capture all of them in one go. Looking at that familiar face, the final scene appeared in Yihua's mind. Yi Zizi was surrounded and attacked by 3 overlords, and in the end, she fell into Yihua's embrace. The words that she said back then were still resounding in Yihua's mind. He remembered that back then, Yi Zizi's entire body was covered in blood, and she didn't even have the strength to raise her hand. However, that pair of scarlet red eyes of hers was still leaking out unwillingness. Big Bones, Zizi doesn't want to die, Zizi wants to play with you, Zizi wants to compete with the gluttonous monster, Zizi still wants to ride the big bone dragon, Zizi wants to be together with you all, Big Bones. Zizi is so cold, so cold. Sensing that Yi Zizi's body was gradually becoming stiff, Yihua revealed the pain of humanity for the first time, and Yihua's painful howls resounded throughout the entire battlefield. Yi Zizi, the first of the 7 sins to die in battle, back then, everyone went crazy. Even if they had to exchange injuries for injuries, they still wanted to kill those 3 overlords. She was indeed exactly the same as Yi Zizi, everything was the same, but in the end, it was just an empty shell, and the soul had already changed. Yihua wouldn't allow anyone to taint the Yi Zizi from back then. Even if it was just an empty shell. Chapter 152. Wei Chang and Lai Gu turned pale with fright and shouted out involuntarily, "Your Honor! When the four maids heard how Wei Chang and Lai Gu addressed him, their heads were filled with doubt. Yi Hua's gaze turned cold, and Wei Chang and Lai Gu immediately lowered their heads. After placing Qingye into the tent, Yi Zizi tidied up Qingye's hair and sighed. Walking out of the tent, Yi Zizi stood 5 meters away from Yi Zizi. Wei Chang and Lai Gu revealed a nervous expression, not knowing what exactly his honor was going to do to Yi Zizi. Yi Hua took out a cigarette case, took out a cigarette and lit it up. With his brows slightly wrinkled, he said, "It has been a long time since I last fought." Yi Zizi stared at the man in front of her, and a trace of doubt appeared in her heart. She felt that he was a little familiar, but she couldn't recall where she had seen him. But no matter what, he was still delicious food. "Hee, you are the most pretentious person I have ever seen," Yi Zizi said with a smile, revealing cute dimples on her cheeks. Yi Hua laughed lightly, "Your guts are truly getting bigger and bigger." Humph, I have a lot of guts." Yi Zizi even gestured, looking very cute. Yi Zizi's actions and tone are still the same as before. What exactly is going on? Suddenly, Yi Zizi's scarlet eyes became strange, as if they were rotating. Then, Yi Zizi exclaimed, "Wow, you're a big bone." The cigarette in Yi Hua's hand immediately broke and fell beside his leather shoes. With a bit of surprise, Yi Hua said, "Big bone." He remembered that Yi Zizi used to call him that in the past. Back then, he was still a skeleton. Even after being lectured several times, Yi Zizi still didn't change her way of addressing him. "I didn't expect your true body to be big bone." Yi Zizi was slightly surprised. She then looked to the other side. A monster and a bone dragon. Things were getting interesting. Yi Hua let out a sigh. "I thought that Yi Zizi had remembered something, but it turns out that her pair of eyes had seen through my true form." Yi Zizi's eyes were filled with excitement. "What a cute big bone. How about you be my pet? I won't suck you." The corner of Yi Hua's mouth twitched slightly, and Lai Gu, who was at the side, seemed to have thought of the past, and he felt gloomy as well. Lai Gu remembered that back then, Yi Zizi was very mischievous, and furthermore, she also had a problem with aesthetics. Yi Zizi would praise his honor for being handsome every day, and expressed that she also wanted a skeleton as a pet. But his honor refused to give it to Yi Zizi, and in the end, Yi Zizi came to look for trouble with Lai Gu and even wanted to ride on Yi Zizi's back then. Not being able to ride on Lai Gu was one of Yi Zizi's biggest regrets before she died. "That will depend on whether you have the ability or not." "Alright then, I'll go easy on you." A true battle was about to break out, and Yi Zizi also became serious. Although she sounded relaxed, she could faintly sense that the other party was very powerful. It was the same for the other two, and as for the other 4 women, they were negligible. "Pavilion Master, it's there." All of a sudden, a black crowd surged over. There were at least 3,000 people. They were the northern forces that followed Emperor Tsang here. Originally, he was in too much of a hurry when he escaped and lost contact with Emperor Tsang. Now, he had no idea where Emperor Tsang had gone. He thought that it would be better for him to just return to avoid any more accidents. However, the pavilion master of the Extreme Will Pavilion and Fengxing subordinates had reported to him, so he decided to come to this stronghold to take a look. The Summer Workshop Shuzhenhai and the Phoenix King Pavilion's Man Kai also came over to take a look as a form of respect for Hifeng. 3,000 people descended and occupied half of the empty space in the small valley. The 3 big shots immediately saw Emperor Tsang, who had been sucked dry. However, the 3 of them only took a glance at Emperor Tsang before shifting their gazes away. After all, with Emperor Tsang's current appearance, even if his mother came over, she wouldn't be able to recognize him. Because Yi Zizi's back was facing everyone, the 3 big shots only felt that Yi Zizi looked familiar. Yi Hua, on the other hand, was facing Yi Zizi, and the 3 big shots felt that Yi Zizi looked really stylish. There were also 2 men and 4 women beside Yi Zizi, and there were even tents beside Yizizi. From the looks of it, Yizizi's taste is rather heavy. Also, what is the meaning of this little loli who is wearing a princess dress? Looking at the two's posture, it seems like they are preparing to fight. Man Kai hated people who bullied little girls the most. How can you be like this, to even bully little girls? After speaking, Man Kai walked towards Yizizi with an evil smile on the corner of his mouth. Yizizi silently lit up a cigarette. Man Kai patted onto Yizizi's shoulder, then said with a smile, "Little girl, don't be afraid, Big Brother is here. If you have any difficulties, you can just tell Big Brother." Big Brother really? Yizizi turned around with a smile. Man Kai's pupils grew bigger and bigger. Isn't this the fucking little loli in the coffin? In the beginning, I was still sighing. A strand of hair quietly drilled into the dumbstruck Man Kai's mouth. In just a few seconds, Man Kai turned into a dried corpse. However, the strand of hair didn't come out and supported Man Kai's corpse. This caused the people behind to think that Man Kai was whispering to the little loli. "Tower Master Man, that should be enough." He frowned and shouted out. "With so many disciples watching, even if you don't care about your face, I still care about it." Seeing that Man Kai still didn't have any reaction, everyone couldn't help but raise their vigilance. Shu Zhenhai shouted out loudly, "Tower Master Man. Enough is enough. Don't throw away the face of your Phoenix King Pavilion." The disciples of the Phoenix King Pavilion felt extremely awkward. The Tower Master's illness is acting up again. Yizizi used the strand of hair to control Man Kai and slowly turned around. The dried-up Man Kai could be seen stretching out his hands and making a peace sign. Meanwhile, Yizizi's head turned 180 degrees and shouted out sweetly. Also, everyone sucked in a mouthful of cold air and took a step back. At the moment of imminent peril, He Feng and Shu Zhenhai immediately shouted out, "Retreat! Retreat! Retreat!" Everyone knew of Man Kai's strength. For Man Kai to be able to kill Man Kai without making a sound, Man Kai's strength was definitely not ordinary. The people that were sent here must have been sucked dry. Hateful little white rabbit, trying to run again, Yizizi puffed up her cheeks and said angrily. Tens of thousands of strands of hair quickly grew longer, causing people to shiver. Snap! Right at this moment, a finger snap echoed in the valley. Yizizi went into a daze and slowly turned her head back. Yihua was smoking a cigarette and his right hand was slightly raised. Yizizi's eyes focused. A circular red barrier immediately appeared around her body. See? The circular barrier seemed to be withstanding some kind of powerful attack as it trembled slightly. Soon after, cracks appeared on the barrier like a spider web. Yizizi looked at the barrier curiously. However, the 3,000 people that were running away instantly turned into dust, as if they were never there in the first place. The walls of the valley were also shaved off by an invisible force. The pitiful Emperor Tsang originally had a corpse, but right now, not even a trace of his corpse was left. This was a finger snap that was compressed again and again. It was the first time Yihua tested it, and he felt that the power of the finger snap was pretty good. It was able to cause fatal damage to those people, but it did not have any effect on Yizizi. Chapter 153. A trace of a smile appeared on the corner of Yihua's mouth. He lightly waved his left hand, and the two instantly disappeared from the valley. Wei Chang looked at the two that disappeared, then turned his head around and looked at Lai Gu. Gluttonous monster, think of a way. Lai Gu said anxiously. He was about to reveal his true form. Wei Chang looked at the place where the two disappeared and took a deep breath. The reason why his honor didn't look for them is because he wanted to see their attitude. But Zizi is different, we watched Zizi grow up. Lai Gu was like an ant on a hot pot, he was afraid that his honor would get angry and kill Zizi. How could Wei Chang not understand that there is a good side to human nature, but there is also a bad side to human nature? Suspicion. His honor is different from the past, he won't be as unreasonable as he was back then. Wei Chang sighed and said, then walked to the small stool and picked up the fishing rod. However, he didn't throw the fishing rod out. It could be seen that Wei Chang was actually very worried. Lai Gu stomped his feet heavily on the ground, causing the ground to tremble. Crushed stones fell from the mountain, and the birds in the forest immediately flew up into the sky. The two of them were helpless right now and could only wait for the result. Forcefully interfering would only make the result worse. On the other side, Yi Zizi looked around curiously. The scorching sun was high up in the sky, and there were a lot of dilapidated houses. The wood of the houses had already decayed. Big Bone, why did you bring me here? Yi Zizi asked curiously. She felt that the two of them didn't seem like they were going to fight at all. Yi Hua smoked his cigarette and walked to the side of a rotten wood. He lightly touched the rotten wood with his fingertip, and the rotten wood immediately turned into broken pieces. You were here at that time. Yi Hua breathed out a mouthful of smoke and said faintly. Yi Zizi pouted her mouth, what was I doing here? Yi Hua didn't answer and said calmly, you are very stubborn, I originally wanted to kill you, but you are very lucky. Bragging. Yi Zizi snorted, then tilted her head 45 degrees, looking very cute. However, you were still saved and became one of my subordinates. Yi Zizi spread out her hands, alright, you are really bragging to the heavens. If you can still remember now, I can let bygones be bygones. Yi Hua's tone changed and emitted out an eerie killing intent. Yi Zizi went silent for a while, then suddenly, of a look as if she remembered of everything, she said, I remember coming. Yi Hua paused for a moment, really? Big Bone, you are so gullible. Yi Zizi stuck out her tongue and made a funny face. This angered Yi Hua quite a bit, and a powerful killing intent immediately exploded out from his entire body. The killing intent seethed like huge waves in the sea, causing the surrounding air to seem as if it was going to solidify, causing people to feel suffocated. The sharp aura caused Yi Zizi's ponytail to dance wildly. However, Yi Zizi was not afraid at all. An unprecedented excitement appeared on her adorable face. Big Bone is amazing, I can do it too. A killing intent that did not lose out to Yi Hua could be seen erupting out from Yi Zizi's body. Although the two killing intents were formless, when they clashed together, a qualitative change occurred. Suddenly, two murderous auras materialized and spread out in a circle. However, this killing intent was like a sickle, cutting through everything. There was not a single meter-tall tree in a 10-mile radius. Countless creatures were cut in half. Yi Zizi giggled, and a bright red spear instantly appeared in her hands. This spear was not ordinary, the spearhead was as long as the spear body, and the spearhead was scarlet red, emitting out a faint layer of blood mist. Meanwhile, the body of the spear was like a flowing river of blood, and one could even hear the cries of aggrieved souls, causing people to tremble with fear. Immediately afterward, a set of white crystal armor appeared on Yi Zizi's body as well. The armor covered 99% of Yi Zizi's body, and even her eyes were the same. As for the remaining 1%, it was her ponytail that was revealed. Various kinds of runes were imprinted on the armor, and every rune represented a type of defense, which was unimaginable. Big Bone, are you going to fight with me empty-handed? Yi Zizi's sweet voice rang out from within the armor. Yi Hua flicked away the cigarette in his hand. Yi Hua could be heard saying calmly, Blood Stirrup's solitary illumination, its biggest specialty is that during battle, it can suck the opponent's blood essence, even if it didn't touch the opponent's body. And that faint red mist is even more fatal, it replaced your hair, and unknowingly, the enemy would be able to inhale it, causing them to hallucinate. And this is only the first stage, you should know the second stage even without me saying it. Moon Scroll Profound Armor, it can be said to be a perfect grade defense, but it is a pity that you have to poke 2 holes to expose your hair, and these 2 holes are the flaws. Yi Zizi, who was within the armor, had a stiff expression. She found it hard to believe. Why does he know all of my secrets? Impossible. How do you know all of these? Yi Zizi's tone suddenly changed. It was no longer the sweet lowly voice, it was as if a ghost was crying. Along with Yi Zizi's roar, it once again formed a sound wave that swept towards the surroundings. Yi Hua looked at Yi Zizi, who was in an unstable state of mind, and said faintly, "Because all of these were given to you by me." Impossible. You lied to me. Yi Zizi, who was within the armor, had a sinister expression. Yi Hua knew all of my secrets, and Yi Zizi knew what this meant. Yi Hua sneered, then his body gradually degenerated, and in a blink of an eye, his original body was revealed. A skeleton. Compared to Death Mage was slightly taller by a bit. His shoulder width was the same as well, and his bone structure was the same as well. However, his skull was extremely similar. It could be seen that Death Mage was also a very handsome person in the past. Yi Hua stretched out his 5 fingers and took a look at them. It has been a long time since I last looked at my main body, and I am a bit not used to it. Now, your blood stirrup solitary illumination is useless against me. At most, it's just a sharp spear. There's nothing to fear. Yi Zizi tightly gripped the blood stirrup solitary illumination spear in her hand. The blood mist on the spearhead increased greatly. It could be seen how indignant Yi Zizi was right now. As for breaking your moon scroll profound armor, I have many ways. For example, Yi Hua waved his hand, and thousands of miniaturized weapons could be seen revolving around his body. As for Yi Hua, it was as if he was playing with a tablet computer. All of a sudden, Yi Hua chose one of them and grabbed onto it. A purple long blade could be seen appearing in Yi Hua's hand. The entire body of the blade was engraved with golden stripes, and an unknown golden liquid was flowing out from the tip of the blade. After the golden liquid fell onto the blade, the golden liquid knew how to flow on its own, as if the golden liquid had its own consciousness. This gold flame dark blade is enough to break your crescent mystic armor. As for the blood stirrup solitary illumination in your hands, Yi Hua could be seen waving his hand once again. Thousands of armors could be seen appearing around Yi Hua's body. Yi Hua chose one of the armors, and the skeleton immediately condensed out. Although this secret feather armor is not a top-notch item, it is still able to suppress the blood qi in your body. If you match it with... Immediately, a shield condensed out on Yi Hua's left hand. If you match it with this serene heavy shield, it will be able to suppress your blood qi to the lowest point. As expected, the blood stirrup solitary illumination spear, which was originally filled with blood qi, gradually weakened, and only traces of blood mist could be seen coming out from it. Although I am not good at strength, it is still enough to deal with you. Chapter 154. Thinking back to the past, he had been a fool. He had put aside some top-tier equipment and insisted on using his own body to defeat his enemies. After all these years of understanding, Yi Hua felt that wearing equipment was also a kind of advantage. Of course, every mage had the heart of a warrior. Death Mage was also the same. Suddenly, cracks began appearing on the ground beneath Yi Zizi's feet, and even the air seemed to be trembling. Yi Hua's gaze immediately became serious. Yi Zizi covered his helmet with one hand and suddenly burst into laughter. You underestimate me, Yi Zizi. Big Bone, you've really made me angry. Boom. Yi Zizi's aura completely erupted. The blood stirrups in her hand shone brighter than before. Looks like your strength has also increased. That's good. Let's fight. Yi Hua raised up the heavy shield in his hand and placed the gold flame dark blade on top of the shield, then slightly tilted his body. Don't look at how Yi Zizi was a little lowly, her explosive power was the most ferocious among the 7 deadly sins. At that time, Yihua didn't dare to take Yizizi's spear head-on, but right now, it was different. Yihua had the confidence that he could win against Yizizi with his weak power. Die! Yizizi let out a ghostly cry and leapt high into the air. Yihua raised his head slightly and saw that the sky behind Yizizi was filled with blood mist. Countless sinister faces of vengeful spirits appeared behind Yizizi, and their miserable cries could be heard. I have said it before. Your moves are useless against me, I am completely able to suppress you. Yihua raised his heavy shield high up. Bang! A loud sound suddenly rang out between the heavens and the earth. The originally clear sky was filled with dark clouds, and it was soon dyed red by the color of blood. It was as if the entire world had fallen into blood. The collision of the weapons created a huge shockwave, and everything around it evaporated. This was just a simple collision. Blood stirrup solitary illumination could be seen emitting out a blood mist, which instantly enveloped Yihua. However, Yihua was just a skeleton, so where would he get the blood essence from? Yihua's main body was able to restrain Yizizi. I have said it before, your moves are useless against me. Yihua's gaze turned cold, and the gold flame dark blade that was in his hand slashed towards Yizizi while carrying along a berserk aura. Yizizi snorted and grabbed the blade with her left hand. Yihua's brows wrinkled. Yizizi's strength has far surpassed my estimation. From the looks of it, after coming back to life, she has become stronger as well, and is no longer the Yizizi from back then. The strength is not bad. This is indeed a good saber, but it can't break my moon scroll mystic armor. Yizizi snorted disdainfully. Although Yihua was shocked by Yizizi's strength, it was not to the extent of being defeated. I have said it before, this blade is used to break your moon scroll profound armor. Yihua said coldly. What a joke. However, as soon as she finished speaking, Yizizi saw the golden liquid flowing into her hand. Yizizi immediately let go of the golden flame dark blade and tried to fling the disgusting liquid away, but to no avail. Pay attention to your feet. Yihua reminded. Yizizi looked and saw that another golden liquid had wrapped around her leg. Yizizi, if you had listened to me back then and didn't poke those 2 holes, you wouldn't have died, but you didn't listen. Yihua shouted out coldly. Back then, the human Yizizi was also able to find Yizizi's flaw and kill her with a single strike. Yizizi scurried up and down, and countless holes were smashed open on the ground. However, those 2 golden liquid were just like glue, sticking tightly onto Yizizi's back and slowly crawling towards the holes on the moon scroll profound armor. Get away from me, oh! Yizizi, who was inside the armor, suddenly let out a ghastly howl. Yihua looked on silently. The moon scroll profound armor was only Yizizi's first line of defense, and her real body was the second line of defense. However, back then, the 3 Yizizi didn't even give Yizizi the chance to become her real body. Of course, I am also able to do it right now, but the 2 golden liquid finally crawled into the holes after much difficulty. Yizizi, who was still scurrying around just a moment ago, immediately stopped moving, as if her body was frozen. You! Just what is this thing? Yizizi asked while standing there foolishly. Yihua said calmly, the golden flame dark blade's formidability doesn't lie in itself, rather, it lies in those 2 golden liquid. Those 2 golden liquid are able to fuse into one's blood and spread a virus, causing one to lose their battle prowess. At that time, your moon scroll profound armor will only be a decoration. So that's how it is, Big Bone. You are powerful, but I am not willing to give up. Yizizi's tone was getting weaker and weaker, as if she was going to collapse at any moment. Yihua let out a breath, just surrender. Yizizi laughed bitterly, then collapsed onto the ground with unwillingness. A light breeze blew past, and the broken ground was just like the surface of the moon. Potholes could be seen everywhere, causing one to exclaim in admiration. Yi Hua, who was dressed in godly equipment, did not move and continued to look at Yi Zizi, who had collapsed onto the ground. After a long while, was it fun? Yi Zizi, who had collapsed onto the ground, paused for a moment, but she still did not have any reaction. You are still the same as before, Yi Hua said gravely. Yi Zizi's personality did not change. Then what exactly happened to her? Yi Zizi, who had collapsed onto the ground, could be seen immediately standing up and snorted, "Big Bone, you are very boring." Yi Hua sighed. Seems like I have still underestimated Yi Zizi's ability. After coming back to life, she became even more valiant. Just like me, aren't Wei Chang and Lai Gu the same as well? Yi Hua kept the golden flame dark blade in his hand and summoned out a sharp sword. Dark abyss, cold soul. The cold air that was emitted out from the sword caused Yi Zizi to go into a daze. "Big Bone, you are shameless." Yi Hua snorted coldly, then leaped high into the air. "I am already giving you face by fighting you in close combat." Sword chi rushed towards Yi Zizi like a raging ocean wave, bringing along a power that could crush everything in the world. The color of the sky suddenly changed. Yi Zizi, who was within the armor, focused her gaze, then raised up the blood stirrup lone illumination spear in her hand, and the red light on the spear's body increased by a bit. This was a battle of strength against strength. However, the reason why Yi Hua chose to fight like this was because of their old friendship, and of course, the heart of a warrior was also unavoidable. The moment the two forces collided with each other, the two forces immediately exploded. Boundless power rose from the ground and broke through the layer of blood-red clouds. The terrifying airflow swirled around violently, forming a terrifying astral wind. "Big Bone, your strength is indeed not bad, but compared to me, it is still a bit lacking." Yi Zizi laughed. Yi Hua laughed lightly. "Is that so? I will let you see what is called strength. Let's wait and see." The two could be seen starting a battle of strength. This kind of scene was just like the end of the world. The ground was trembling, and even the sky had hidden itself deep within the clouds. Boom, boom, boom. Waves of loud sounds reverberated in the world, and the battle between the two had entered into a white-hot stage. The more Yi Zizi fought, the more excited she became, and her strength continued to rise. Coupled with the moon scroll profound armor, she could be said to be invincible in close combat. Chapter 155. In an instant. The two of them instantly separated from each other. Yi Hua looked at Yi Zizi calmly. Meanwhile, Yi Zizi's breathing was a bit chaotic, but her battle prowess was still extraordinary. "Yi Zizi, seeing that you have such strength, I am rather happy." Yi Hua lightly waved his hand, and the godly equipment that he was wearing instantly disappeared, revealing his true form. Yi Zizi calmed her breathing and said in a sweet voice, "Big Bone, are you going to admit defeat?" Yi Hua's empty eye sockets immediately shone with a red light. "Yi Zizi, you don't understand my true strength at all." "Alright, you are starting to act cool again. Wait till I break your bones, let's see if you are still going to act cool then." Yi Zizi snorted coldly, then pierced towards the space between Yi Hua's eyebrows. As for Yi Hua, he just stood at his original spot and did not take any defensive measures. Blood stirrup's solitary illumination blossomed with an incomparably powerful red light. Yi Zizi was planning to grab onto Yi Hua's loophole and end the battle with a single strike. The idea is good, but just like what Yi Hua said, you don't know how powerful the enemy that you are facing is. Just when the tip of the spear was about to pierce through Yi Hua's skull, it actually stopped abruptly. The distance between the spear and Yi Hua's skull was merely 1 millimeter. From this, it could be seen how strong Yi Hua's control ability was. Yi Zizi was stunned for a moment, and then her expression changed drastically. She wanted to pull away, but she found that she couldn't move her body. Yizizi, in actuality, I am able to kill you just by moving my finger. However, do you know why I didn't kill you? Yihua said lightly. Yizizi didn't answer. She used all her strength, but she couldn't break free from the invisible shackles. Because I can't bear to. Sky Ghost Fire. Yihua shouted out faintly. 5 purple flames appeared around Yizizi. Each flame intertwined with each other to form a strange fire array, and Yizizi was in the middle of the array. Puff! The purple fire array immediately soared into the sky. The huge round purple fire looked as if it wanted to burn the sky, and Yizizi was being burned by it. Ah! I'm going to kill you! Yizizi roared within the flames, but to no avail. Yihua seemed to be waiting for an opportunity. Suddenly, he felt that Yizizi, who was in the fire, had a strange movement. You are still thinking of revealing your true form and escaping. You overestimate yourself. Divine Kun Chain. Yizizi, who was inside the armor, had a drastic change in her expression. How is it possible that I can't even release my main body? The purple flames continued to burn Yizizi. The moon scroll mystic armor on her body had already turned purple, but even so, Yizizi's ponytails were still fluttering. Big Bone, I admit defeat. I admit defeat. Yizizi, who was inside the armor, could no longer endure the burning and loudly begged for mercy. However, Yihua ignored him and continued to wait. I admit defeat, what else do you want? A burst of evil aura emerged from the purple flames. Yihua lightly waved his hand, and the so-called evil aura quietly disappeared. Half an hour. 1 hour. 2 hours, you are ruthless. After finished speaking, Yizizi fainted. Yihua let out a sigh of relief. I have finally managed to make her faint from the fever. Alright, let's see what exactly is going on with you. He stretched out his hand, and a lamp appeared in his hand. The name of this lamp was Moonlight Candle. It was able to illuminate all unknown things and could be easily destroyed. However, it was a pity that it could only be used once, and after it was ignited, it would disappear. Furthermore, it had to be used when the target was at their weakest, otherwise, it would be completely useless. At the start, Yihua used his strength to resist against the flames because he wanted to test Yizizi's strength. Indeed, it was the same as what he thought. Yizizi's strength had indeed increased by a lot. Using Sky Ghost Fire to burn her was just to erase her consciousness so that he could use Moonlight Candle. Withdrawing his hand, Sky Ghost Fire instantly disappeared, and Yizizi was still under Yihua's control. Moonlight Candle slowly floated above Yizizi's head, and the flame emitted from the wick illuminated Yizizi's entire body. Yihua's gaze was fixated on Yizizi. I hope that this Moonlight Candle will be effective. Slowly, the candle illuminated Yizizi's body, as well as her various physiques. Yihua was rather familiar with these physiques, and they were considered normal. Suddenly, 3 faint seals appeared above Yizizi's head, forming a triangle. Judging from the shape, 2 of the seals were still missing, thus, they could not be counted as a complete seal. Yihua clenched his fists. To actually dare to place a seal on my subordinate. But Yizizi's ability is so strong, who is able to place a seal on her? I will ask her later. Yihua lightly tapped with his finger, and the 3 seals immediately shattered. At this moment, Moonlight Candle finished burning and disappeared from the sky. After the seals disappeared, all of the equipment on Yizizi's body disappeared as well. Yizizi, who was wearing a princess dress, slowly landed on the ground. Yihua summoned out his human form, took out a stick of cigarette, lit it up, and waited for Yizizi to wake up. After a long time, Yizizi, who was lying on the ground, rubbed her big eyes. Where is this place? So hungry. Yizizi sat up and pursed her lips. Suddenly, she saw an unfamiliar man in front of her, and the man was smoking a cigarette, so handsome, but this man has such a familiar feeling, Yi Zizi. Yi Hua shouted out gravely. Yi Zizi immediately recalled the battle that happened just now, and her pitiful face collapsed, and bean-sized tears immediately flowed out. Big boned Yi Zizi ran with all her might, and tears of joy fell down from the sky. Yi Zizi could be seen throwing herself into Yi Hua's embrace and crying bitterly. This is too miserable. Yi Zizi was just like an abandoned child. Yi Hua let out a sigh of relief, then patted onto Yi Zizi's head. Where did your imposing manner just now go? Big Bone, I know my mistake. Whoa, Big Bone, I miss you so much. Yi Zizi wiped her snot and tears onto Yi Hua's clothes. Yi Hua wrinkled his brows. Alright, you have to be punished for doing something wrong. Yi Zizi looked at Yi Hua pitifully, then raised her butt. Don't think that Yi Hua suddenly thought of spanking Yi Zizi, just that in the past, Yi Zizi often made mistakes, so Yi Hua could only spank her butt. Without any politeness, Yi Hua began to teach this mischievous subordinate a lesson. However, the fact that Yi Zizi was able to recover made Yi Hua very happy. Alright. Yi Zizi touched her butt, then hugged onto Yi Hua's neck. Big Bone, Zizi misses everyone so much. Don't cry anymore, I still have some things that I want to ask you. Yi Hua said gravely. Yi Zizi wiped away the tears at the corner of her eyes, and, Big Bone, ask me, I will tell you everything that I know. When did you wake up, and who placed the seal on you? Yi Zizi said without thinking too much. Around a year ago, Zizi woke up. At that time, there were a lot of priests who were sitting beside Zizi and chanting incantations, and there was even a magic tool placed on top of Zizi's head. When Zizi woke up, Zizi crushed the magic tool and sucked all of them in. After that, Zizi wandered around and discovered that this world is super fun. There are beautiful dresses to wear, just that, I am too weak. Big Bone, you also know that Zizi is very lazy, so Zizi thought of a method, which is to gather the more powerful people together and suck them in. Unfortunately, the ones that came were still too weak, and I didn't have enough fun. After that, I met. Your Honor, please forgive Zizi. Woo, Your Honor, acting coquettishly mode activated. Chapter 156. Yi Zizi stroked her long ponytail. Actually, Yi Zizi still had many abilities that she had yet to display. Unfortunately, she had been defeated just like that. Yi Hua let out a light sigh. Being too strong is also a kind of sin. No one is able to evoke my desire to fight, and only my subordinates are able to make me fight. Throwing everything else aside, today's fight was rather comfortable. According to Yi Zizi's description, she should have awakened 5 years ago. It was just that she was discovered by others, and they wanted to control her. Perhaps, even they did not know that it would take so long to cast the seal. After all, Yi Zizi was too powerful. Even after several years, she was only barely able to cast the 3rd layer of the seal. Before the 2nd layer was completed, Yi Zizi had already awakened. It was just that it was amazing that humans had such a magic tool. However, thinking back to those supremes in the past, they also had many powerful magic tools. It was normal for the people of this world to have 1 or 2. Yi Zizi, who was in his arms, raised her pitiful face and said with grievance, Big Bone, have you forgiven Zizi? I'll forgive you if you don't call me Big Bone. Yi Zizi's face fell. But I've been calling you for a long time. Then I won't forgive you. I'll change, alright. Yi Zizi rubbed her head against Yi Hua's chest and acted coquettishly. Yi Hua thought for a bit. Right now, Qingya still doesn't know of my identity. If I were to have another little girl as my subordinate, and furthermore, the little girl is a little lowly, wouldn't she think that I am a pervert to have even taken a little lowly as my subordinate? Based on Yi Zizi's personality, it was obvious that she was a follower. Even if he forced her out, he didn't know what kind of trouble she would cause. He had tried it back then, and his game had just begun. He couldn't let Yizizi ruin it. It would be better to give her an identity. Yizizi opened her eyes wide and looked at Yihua. Yizizi looked extremely pitiful. Call me big cousin. When there's no one around, you have to call me your honor, do you understand? He had to take this opportunity to change the way Yizizi addressed him. He had really indulged her too much in the past. Yizizi was overjoyed. Without thinking too much, she said, "Big cousin." He thought that Yizizi would be conflicted for a while, but he didn't expect her to be so straightforward. Yizizi had been in the human world for a year, so she knew that big cousin was a more intimate form of address. This was much better than big bones, so she readily agreed. Big cousin, I want to see the gluttonous monster and the big bone dragon. Yihua knocked onto Yizizi's forehead. When there is no one around, call me your honor. Also, don't call them nicknames. Yizizi rubbed his forehead, then said while puffing out his cheeks, Your honor, Zizi understands. Go back, Wei Chang will tell you the details. Yes, let's go back. With that, the two of them disappeared from the ruins. After an unknown period of time, a figure suddenly appeared at the scene. He was wearing a purple and gold robe and had a dragon crown on his head. One look and anyone could tell that he was from a rich family. When this person arrived at the scene, he only looked around curiously. After that, he began to look around anxiously as if he had dropped some treasure. The man could be seen scratching onto his face as he muttered softly, there was clearly a notification that the red packet was right here, why did it disappear? Did the red packet system make a mistake? Suddenly, two black figures knelt in front of the man and said respectfully, Your Majesty. This place is not suitable to stay for long, a large number of sects are currently gathering here. The man sighed helplessly. I can only look for an opportunity to come back and take a look. Not long after the man left, countless people rushed over. If Yihua was still here, there would be a few familiar faces among the crowd. Beside the waterfall, Wei Chang and Lai Gu sat on a small stool and waited quietly. Tang Wei was standing behind Wei Chang and massaging his shoulders, and Lai Gu was enjoying the service of his three women. Massaging his shoulders, massaging his hands, and massaging his feet. Who says that having more wives doesn't have any advantages? Why aren't they back yet? Lai Gu was a little annoyed from waiting. It has already been a few hours, if His Honor wants to take care of Zizi, wouldn't it just be a matter of seconds? Could it be? A scene appeared in Lai Gu's mind. Zizi was tied up and His Honor was fiercely whipping Zizi. Your boss. Wei Chang immediately stood up and shouted out. Boss. Lai Gu hurriedly stood up and shouted out. However, there was only the figure of the boss. Where did Zizi go? Could it be? Lai Gu looked at His Honor in disbelief and asked blankly, Boss, where's Zizi? Yihua took out a stick of cigarette, then walked towards the tent and lightly puffed out a cigarette, dead. Wei Chang and Lai Gu were completely stunned, as if they were struck by lightning. They were unable to imagine that the adorable Zizi who was in the past died just like that. Lai Gu was evidently even sadder as he sat on the ground and wailed, Zizi, why are you so foolish? Don't you know how to run when you can't win? I haven't even had the chance to let you ride on me yet. Tears were flowing down Wei Chang's old face. Back then, Zizi still wanted to compete with me, but now, suddenly, Lai Gu felt that there was one more person on his shoulder and said gravely, Stop messing around, I'm not in the mood. However, even his ears were grabbed. Lai Gu immediately opened his eyes. These women are too outrageous, can't they see that I am in a bad mood? However, looking at the swaying ponytail in front of him, Lai Gu was stunned as he slowly turned his head around. Hee hee, big bone dragon, do you miss Zizi? Yizizi could be seen riding on Lai Gu's shoulder while grabbing onto Lai Gu's ears with both of her hands and said sweetly. Lai Gu didn't know how to express his joy at this moment. The expression on his face was very rich as he immediately soared into the sky. Meanwhile, Yizizi shouted excitedly, I finally got to ride on the big bone dragon. After flying into the clouds, Lai Gu immediately revealed his true form. Yizizi, who was sitting on the bone dragon's back, looked very small. Roar! Lai Gu's excited dragon roar rang out in the sky. However, quite a few people heard it and thought that they were hallucinating. And Lai Gu did not roar a second time, because Yi Hua was warning him. Not long later, the two landed on the ground. Yizizi pounced onto Wei Chang's embrace and hung onto him like a koala bear. Gluttonous monster, Zizi saw that you cried just now. Wei Chang laughed lightly, you saw wrongly. Hee, I didn't see wrongly, you still don't want to admit it. When are you going to compete with me? That will require boss's approval. Wei Chang rubbed onto Yizizi's head and laughed. Yizizi pursed her lips. Suddenly, she saw the four women beside her and her eyes immediately lit up. Wow, what beautiful clothes, I want to wear them too. In actuality, the four maids were still in a state of shock. Originally, they thought that this little loli was an enemy, but they didn't expect that in the end, she was actually an ally. The four maids still didn't know what was going on and appeared very respectful towards Yizizi. Where did you buy these clothes from? I want them too. Yizizi touched onto the lace skirt and asked curiously. Little loli and uniform fetish. Wei Chang explained the relationship between everyone to Lai Gu, and Yizizi immediately felt that it was unfair. This won't do, all of you have women, Zizi wants a woman too. Wei Chang, Lai Gu. Chapter 157. Wei Chang chuckled and said, Zizi, lower your voice. Don't disturb Madam's rest. Madam? Who is Madam? Yizizi asked in confusion. Lai Gu stroked onto Yizizi, who was only 1.2 meters tall, and said with a smile, boss's wife. Ah! Big cousin has a wife. Yizizi exclaimed and immediately covered her mouth. Wei Chang smiled, and, with the recent events, Madam is already pregnant. Ah! Isn't his honor just a skeleton? How could it impregnate a human? This is too mystical, I'll go take a look. After saying that, Yizizi trotted to the side of the tent and quietly walked in. Yizizi could see that his honor was carrying a human woman, and the human woman was so beautiful. Yizizi felt that this human woman was the most beautiful human woman that she had ever seen. Yi Hua said faintly, be quiet. Yizizi nodded her head, then went closer to observe for a bit, then said in a low voice, Your Honor, can I hug Madam? Be gentler. Yi Hua didn't reject Zizi. Zizi is still a child. Yizizi slowly crawled in between the two of them, then lightly hugged onto Qinya and buried her head into Qinya's chest. This action of Yizizi made Yi Hua a bit unhappy. If I had known earlier, I wouldn't have let her hug onto me. However, the words that I have said are of enormous weight, not even 20 kun would be able to pull me back. Madam's embrace is so warm, so comfortable. Yizizi narrowed her beautiful eyes. No wonder his honor would like this human woman. The cultivation world's king of vinegar couldn't stand it anymore and said, All right, let go of me. Your honor, hug me for a while more, just a while more I beg of you. Qinya could be seen letting out a light moan, then stretching out her hand, she hugged onto Yizizi. Qinya had definitely mistaken Yizizi for Yi Hua. This infuriated the king of jealousy. Hugging a doll was one thing, but hugging a child. Still not letting go. Yi Hua shouted out lightly. Yizizi felt wronged and said, It's not me, it's Madam who is hugging me and not letting go. Yi Hua could only forcefully pry open Yizizi's arms, then push Yizizi away from Yizizi. Sure enough, Yi Hua ended up hugging onto Qinya. Your Honor, you are so stingy, Yi Zizi pouted her small mouth and said. Yi Hua glared at Yi Zizi, then said in a low voice, remember to wait for me at the county town tomorrow. Okay, got it. Yi Zizi responded and left the tent. Madame's embrace was so comfortable, soft and soft. Yi Zizi said a few words to Wei Chang and left for the time being. The future is long. Yi Hua still didn't know how wrong his decision this time was. If he were to know what his little cousin would do in the future, he would definitely not be able to hold himself back from kicking her out and letting her fend for herself outside. While hugging onto the woman in his embrace, Yi Hua let out a breath. Double kill, double kill. Tang Wei immediately felt a wave of dizziness. I really want to cry. Does anyone have any good ideas? After a while, Tang Wei calmed herself down. I don't believe that Uncle Wei doesn't understand. I have done my homework before coming here. Tang Wei slowly stretched out her slender hand and stroked onto Uncle Wei's chest. Do you still not understand? Wei Chang was very gratified as he laughed tenderly. Xiao Tang, Uncle Wei isn't tired. I don't need you to massage me. Puff. Triple kill, triple kill. Uncle Wei actually feels that I am giving him a massage, my god. Why is it like this? Seems like I can only use my trump card. Tang Wei could be seen making up her mind. While stroking onto Wei Chang's chest, she let out a very alluring moan. Which man would be able to endure it? Tang Wei doesn't believe it. Wei Chang could be seen being startled as he asked with concern, Xiao Tang, what's wrong? Is it because your respiratory tract is infected? Puff. Quadruple kill. Tang Wei felt as if she was struck by lightning from a clear sky. Being struck by the lightning, Wei Chang said worriedly, this valley is humid, you have to pay attention to your body, do you understand? Tang Wei didn't speak, she was already unable to think normally. In the past, I thought that Uncle Wei's illness was only mild, but from the looks of it, it is not just mild, it is very serious. This is an illness, I have to treat it. Right now, Tang Wei felt that she must definitely cure Uncle Wei's illness, no matter how shameless she is, she must save Uncle Wei. Tang Wei could be seen hugging onto Wei Chang's arm and said tenderly, Uncle Wei, you can be at ease, today is my safe period, nothing will happen to me. Wei Chang stroked onto Tang Wei's hair and said gravely, Uncle Wei knows, with Uncle Wei here, not only today. You will be safe from today onwards. Pentakill, pentakill. Ace, your woman has already been killed by you. Tang Wei felt that Uncle Wei was incurable, oh my god. Chapter 158. Uncle Wei, I am going to sleep first, you should rest early too. Tang Wei was very hurt, being ignored by Uncle Wei. Uncle Wei went into a daze for a moment, then responded with an oh. Why do I feel that Xiao Tang's mood is a bit low? It shouldn't be. Just now, he expressed his concern for me and also displayed his powerful strength. Why is it like this? Wasn't she supposed to be moved beyond belief? This is how idle dramas come about. With deep doubts, Wei Chang gradually fell asleep. Although there wasn't any substantial progress, at least he had taken the first step and slept together. Just that, thinking that Xiao Tang is going to start school soon, at that time, she might not be able to stay in leisure bar to work anymore. How should I solve this matter? This is really troublesome. Should I eat up the people in school? If Yi Hua knew that Wei Chang was so indecisive, he would definitely teach him a lesson. As a strong person, he should be a bit more overbearing, if not why would women listen to him? Carrying Qinya, Yi Hua took out the pajamas for Qinya to change into. Looking at her body, it was even more alluring than the first time he saw her. Every inch of her skin was emitting out a faint fragrance, and even had a beautiful luster. In any case, no one saw it, even if someone saw it, kill him to silence him. GGG, the sun revealed itself from behind the peak of Tsang Tsang Mountain. a few rays of warm light shone onto the valley, causing people to feel a kind of sweet tiredness. Yihua slowly opened his eyes. Qingye, who was in his embrace, started to cry again. As expected, she is a whining monster. Yihua, I am hungry. Qingye, who was in her sleep, mumbled. Her beautiful eyes were reluctant to even open. If you are hungry, then get up and eat breakfast. I don't want to get up, sleeping is very comfortable. Qingye moved her body, putting on a more comfortable position. Yihua laughed lightly, we are not at home. Qingye slowly opened her eyes and looked around. The scene from yesterday immediately appeared in front of her eyes. You had a nightmare last night. Looking at Qingye's fearful gaze, Yihua said faintly. Qingye's tightly knitted brows gradually relaxed. Dream? And you went to rest after eating yesterday. So it is like that, you scared me to death. Qingye patted her chest, immediately feeling that something was wrong. When did I wear pajamas? Yihua said, I helped you change. You are taking advantage of me again. Qingye said bashfully. Yihua pinched onto Baiji's tender face. All right, after you change your clothes, come out. After eating breakfast, we will go back. After finished speaking, Yihua walked out of the tent. The air here is rather comfortable. Lighting up a stick of cigarette, the four maids had already woken up very early to prepare breakfast, while Wei Chang was sitting at the side of the water in a daze. Lai Gu had yet to wake up. How old is your cousin sister? Middle school or high school? Qingye took out her phone and asked. Middle school or high school? Yihua looked towards Wei Chang and Lai Gu, and the latter lowered his head, expressing that he did not know. She is 8 years old. Yihua himself did not know either, because he had never studied before. Qingye thought for a while, then muttered, if she is 8 years old, she should be attending primary school, around grade 3. Yes, that's right. Yihua said. Qingye immediately gave a call to the general manager of Long'an City, Lu Hang, and asked him to go and make arrangements. After all, the school was about to start soon. Yihua, when the time comes, give me your cousin's information. Qingye said. Speaking of information, Yihua felt that Yizizi should be an unregistered citizen. When the time comes, I will just let that Xiao Jiu go and settle it. Okay, I'll give it to you when we get back. After dinner, everyone left the valley. To Lai Gu's women, this day and night were very exciting. Of course, Lai Gu himself was also very satisfied. However, to Wei Chang and Tang Wei, it was simply indescribable. In actuality, the person who was the happiest was still Yihua. After all, he managed to subdue Qingye. Look at the current Qingye. Qingye is currently leaning into Yihua's embrace, and Qingye is currently unable to leave Yihua's embrace. After getting on the highway, Qingye, who was lying in Yihua's embrace, asked curiously, Yihua, why didn't I hear that you have a cousin sister? Oh, long time no see. Qingye punched Yihua's fist. All right then, you are hiding everything from me. Lifting up Qingye's chin, Yihua immediately kissed onto Qingye's chin, causing Qingye to be dumbfounded. So annoying. There are still people here. Just treat them as if they are transparent. Wei Chang and Lai Gu were very hurt, especially Wei Chang. Why is it that even his honor is able to do it so easily, but I am unable to? I should take this opportunity to properly learn his honor's flirting skills. Chapter 159. In the Cayenne that was following behind, Tang Wei was a bit disappointed as she turned her head and looked outside of the car window. Tang Wei, did you do it last night? Bai Xiaozhen, who was sitting at the side, asked in a low voice. Sigh, if only I did it last night. Tang Wei shook her head, then let out a deep sigh. Thinking about how Uncle Wei acted last night, she felt both angry and funny at the same time. Iran, who was sitting at the front, also became interested. She turned her head and said with a smile, "Xiao Tang, you are already dressed so sexily. Could it be that Uncle Wei did not have any reaction? Gu Gu seemed to have injected stimulants last night, and Wenxia was even more miserable." Sure enough, Wenxia, who was driving the car, blushed, and Bai Xiaozhen even pouted. "Iran, don't say any more, look at the two of you, TSK, TSK." Iran laughed. Tang Wei let out a deep sigh again. "Other people are so blessed, and yet I am worrying about this kind of thing. Forget it, let's just let nature take its course." 2 hours later, Yihua finally got off the highway and arrived at a small town. Yihua chose a remote location to put on an act for the entire time. "Have we arrived?" Qinya got up from Yihua's embrace and opened the car window to take a look. Yihua nodded his head and arrived at the agreed location, but Yizizi had not arrived yet. "She couldn't have gone to prank me again, right? I'm a bit hungry." Qinya rubbed onto her flat stomach and said embarrassedly. She was a pregnant woman, so it was normal for her to be hungry. After all, the big ones have to eat, the small ones have to eat too. "Madam, the food in this small town is rather small." Wei Chang took a look and said. Qinya's eyes lit up. "Isn't there a Shaxian snack there? Let's go there." Yihua had tasted this Shaxian snack before, and it was not bad. "Alright, let's treat it as lunch." Yihua approved. The appearance of two Qians in this small town still attracted quite a bit of attention. Curious about what kind of people were sitting inside, the roadside stalls all paid attention to them. When they saw the people that got off the car, all of the males' eyes almost popped out, especially the one that was in the car at the back. He was simply about to spurt out blood. "I can't take it anymore. I can't take it anymore." As celebrities, the three of them had already secretly changed their appearances before they alighted from the car. This was also done by the Lai Goose sect. It was more convenient for them to go out and play together. After all, it was more exciting outside than at home. Although the beauty in the car behind made people spurt blood, the woman in the car in front helped them stop the bleeding. It was a sacred and inviolable feeling, so beautiful that it felt unreal. But it was such a woman, that willowy waist was actually hugged by a man. God damn it. But for some reason, everyone felt that this group of people seemed to revolve around this man. It was really incomprehensible. Wasn't he just good-looking? This was really an era where looks mattered. Right now, Yihua was also contacting Yizizi. Yizizi expressed her apologies and said that she would be coming over immediately. There was no one in the snack bar in Shaxian County. The boss was sitting at the table. There was a mobile phone, dumpling wrappers, and minced meat on the table. He was watching a drama while making dumplings. Hearing the sound of the door opening, the boss looked up and was shocked. He hurriedly rubbed his hands and asked with a smile, "What would you like to eat?" Qinya looked at the menu on the wall and said faintly, "A set of steamed dumplings." "Yihua, what do you want to eat?" "Stir-fried rice noodle, add an extra egg." Yihua said faintly. Lai Gu pursed his lips, "Give me a set of mixed noodles." Wei Chang asked Tang Wei concernedly, "Xiao Tang, what do you want to eat?" "Anything will do." Tang Wei's mood was a bit gloomy, but it was also normal. Last night, I had already hinted at Uncle Wei so crazily, but Uncle Wei did not even have any reaction. Thinking up to here, Tang Wei was greatly shocked. Does it mean that people can't get it up after reaching middle age? And Uncle Wei was embarrassed to say it out. I am too stupid. Isn't this the same as rubbing salt on Uncle Wei's wound? I shouldn't be doing this. I should think of a way to help Uncle Wei nourish his body and recuperate for a bit. Then, I will go and inquire about the old prescriptions of the people and prescribe some medicine for Uncle Wei to eat. Wei Chang was still looking at the menu, and Tang Wei, who was behind him, had already given him the title of impotence, give me a ginseng black chicken soup then. Wei Chang said. Tang Wei had an as-expected look on her face. Even Uncle Wei himself knows to nourish his body. My pitiful Uncle Wei has fallen into a chronic illness after reaching middle age. In the future, I have to take good care of him and not let Uncle Wei get injured again. Thinking about last night, Uncle Wei was definitely very gloomy. Last night, Wei Chang was indeed very gloomy. The four of them sat at a table, and very quickly, the steamed dumplings were served. Qinya felt that the steamed dumplings were pretty good. Yihua, does your cousin live here? Qinya asked curiously. That's right, I just want to go out and see the world. Yihua could only say this. Qinya said tenderly, girls should go out and see the world in the first place, only then would they not be cheated by bad men. This is scolding the locust tree while pointing at the mulberry tree. Wei Chang and Lai Gu really wanted to change to another table. The madam is too formidable, to the point that even his honor is speechless. Then, you have to go out and see the world more. Yihua was not someone who was easy to provoke. Qinya snorted and no longer paid attention to Yihua. You only know how to talk back zzz. The sound of the door attracted everyone's attention. The boss who was currently working looked towards the door, and the spoon that was in his hand even dropped onto the ground. This lowly is simply asking for my life. Yizizi could be seen wearing a light blue off-shoulder princess dress. Her beautiful collarbone was faintly discernible, the butterfly knot on her waist was cute and moving, and layers upon layers of lace adorned the beautiful dress. She was wearing a big round hat on her head, and her twin ponytails were hanging very naturally behind her head. Different from yesterday, her ponytails were slightly curled up today. Seems like she might have gone to have her hair permed just now. Her pair of small hands were even wearing long gloves, and she was even holding onto a cute little umbrella. She looked just like a little loli that walked out from a two-dimensional world. Looking at Yizizi who was dressed up like this, Yihua couldn't help but feel a bit of a headache. She is your cousin? Qinya mumbled and asked. Yihua nodded his head. I feel that she has seen more of the world than me. Qinya felt that this little loli was a princess from a European royal family. For her to be dressed up so gorgeously, it seemed as if she was going to attend a very important banquet. Yizizi was indeed thinking like that. In any case, it was her first time meeting the madam, so of course, it had to be a bit more grand. Thus, she forgot about Yihua's words. Big brother, Yizizi waved her hand excitedly, and her pair of eyes curved into the shape of a crescent moon. If it was possible, Yihua didn't want to respond. Coming. Hello, big sister-in-law, I am Yizizi. Yizizi directly ran in front of Qinya and used that lowly voice to act cute. In actuality, Qinya had never seen such a cute little loli before, but why do I feel that she looks familiar? I seem to have seen her in my dream last night. Of course, Qinya had seen Yizizi who was lying in the coffin before, just that, Yihua said that it was a dream. If I give birth to a daughter, I will definitely dress up like this too. Yizizi, you are so cute. It was rare for Qinya to reveal a smile towards a stranger. Hee, big sister-in-law, can Zizi hug you? Chapter 160. This was the death stare of a supreme being, no, the stare of the Vinegar King. What are you hugging? Yihua shouted out coldly. In this world, I am the only one who is capable of hugging. Sure enough, Yizizi's hand that was stretched out immediately retracted back, then lowered her head, causing Qinya's heart to ache endlessly. What are you doing, yelling at a girl? Qinya glared at Yihua petulantly, then squatted down and lightly hugged onto Yizizi. Ignore him, he is the king of jealousy. Yizizi's face immediately brightened up, and with a smile on her face, she leaned into Qinya's embrace. Sister-in-law, your embrace is so warm. This little girl was too good at talking, just like Ollie. Zizi is also very pretty. cousin-in-law likes her very much. What do you like? Pay the bill and leave. Yi Hua was in a bad mood. Standing up, he walked to the door and lit up a cigarette. Seems like I didn't burn enough yesterday. Qingye laughed bitterly, don't care about him. And, Zizi will listen to big sister-in-law whatever big sister-in-law says, Zizi will do it. In the past, Zizi did not have any backing, but right now, with Qingye as her backing, Zizi's career would definitely soar. And, so obedient. Qingye stretched out her hand and pinched onto Zizi's little face. Wei Chang and Lai Gu were immediately startled. However, Zizi didn't react excessively. She was still smiling, which made the two of them feel relieved. They were afraid that Zizi would instantly kill the madam. Other than Yi Hua, Qingye was the second person who dared to pinch Zizi's face. No. Qingye was the first human who dared to pinch Zizi's face. Yi Hua gave a serious warning to Zizi, while Zizi expressed that it was sister-in-law who was holding her hand, and that she was being wronged. Only a fool would believe you. Half an hour ago, Qingye was still snuggling up to Yi Hua, and right now, Zizi was sitting in the middle of the car. Sit in the car at the back. Yi Hua said. Zizi immediately revealed an expression of fear, then immediately hugged onto Qingye. Pouncing onto Qingye was a matter of course. Qingye patted onto Zizi's shoulder, then said to Yi Hua, why are you being so fierce for? The one who was supposed to receive it is you, and the one who is supposed to be scolding right now is also you. Wei Chang and Lai Gu pretended not to hear anything. Lai Gu, when we reach Longtan City, bring Zizi to look for a house to stay in. Yi Hua decided to change his way of thinking. Before even waiting for Lai Gu to reply, Qingye said unwillingly, you are letting an 8-year-old little girl stay outside by herself. Is there any big cousin like you, 8 years old? Even if it wasn't 8,000, it would at least be 800. Sister-in-law, Zizi is scared, Zizi said pitifully. Yi Hua, you don't have to argue with Yi Hua anymore. Yutong's room is big enough, just let Zizi and Yutong sleep in the same room. Qingye gave a suggestion that could not be opposed. But was it really okay to let two Chinibyu girls sleep together? Aren't you afraid of causing a commotion? If Qingye knew about Yi Hua's future development, she would definitely agree to Yi Hua's request. Going out to live was also a kind of release. After all, a child should live independently as early as possible. Yi Hua glared at Qingye, if anything happens, you settle it yourself. Let's settle it then. Qingye snorted. Eldest cousin-in-law, you are so good to Zizi. Zizi smiled sweetly, which melted Qingye's heart. Just that, when Qingye saw that Zizi's pupils were scarlet red, she became very puzzled. Zizi, why are your eyes red? Did you wear cosmetic contact lenses? Zizi blinked her beautiful eyes. No, Zizi was born like this. Although it was rather weird, this pair of red pupils in Zizi were still quite effective. 4 p.m. in the afternoon, the group of people arrived at the entrance of Leisure Bar. Qingye brought Zizi into the bar first, while Yi Hua had to give a few instructions. Do not slacken your intelligence work, report to me on time every day. Also, let Xiao Jiu go and handle Zizi's identity information. Yi Hua said faintly. Yes. Yes. Yi Hua nodded his head, lit up a cigarette and walked into Leisure Bar. Wei Chang unbuckled his seatbelt and said, you can go back first, I will go and send Xiao Tang off. Gluttonous monster, what are you talking about? Send her off by car, you are even riding a bicycle to send her off. Right now, Lai Gu was very extravagant. Lai Gu could be seen opening the car door and saying, this car is for you. Don't be too stingy when chasing after a woman, sometimes, you also need to give her some face. Wei Chang went into a daze for a moment, then felt that what Lai Gu said was right, not having a car was indeed inconvenient. I won't be polite then. Lai Gu immediately revealed out a crafty smile. Then, I will hand over the matter that your honor instructed me just now to you. Bye-bye. After pausing for a moment, Lai Gu added another sentence, grab hold of the opportunity at night. As a brother, I can only help you to this step. Wei Chang knew that Lai Gu definitely did not have good intentions by gifting a car for no reason. However, this kind of small matter can be handed over to Death Mage to take care of. After sending Xiao Tang back, I still have to go to work at night. Not long later, Tang Wei sat on the car and cried out in surprise, Uncle Wei, why did you suddenly want to buy this car? It was definitely Lai Gu who said it again. It's convenient for me to pick you up. Wei Chang stretched out his hand and stroked onto Tang Wei's cheek. But this car is too expensive. It's fine, Uncle Wei can afford it. Wei Chang laughed and headed towards Tang Wei's residence. Lai Gu went back as well. I haven't even handed over my public allowance for today. In leisure bar. Just when Yihua walked up the stairs, he heard Qing Yutong's cry of surprise and Yi Zizi's cry of surprise. Pushing open Qing Yutong's door and taking a look, even Qing Ye went into a daze at the side. Qing Yutong could be seen wearing a level 3 helmet, a level 3 bulletproof vest, a frying pan was hanging on her butt, and she was also wearing a teacher's uniform. Yi Zizi's gaze was fiery, as if she had found a like-minded comrade. Brother-in-law, big sister, you two only went out for a day, and the child is already so big. Qing Yutong cried out in surprise and carried Yi Zizi up. This little loli is too cute. Yi Zizi felt that this aunt's embrace was not as warm as her sister-in-law's, but it was still rather comfortable. Whoa! Aunt, you are going to suffocate me to death. Yi Zizi couldn't take it anymore. This aunt is too savage. Aunt! Qing Yutong immediately collapsed. Forget about being called aunt by Ali, right now. Even this little loli wants to call me aunt. Don't you think that I should be angry? Yutong, she is called Yi Zizi. She is your brother-in-law's cousin. Qing Ye explained. Qing Yutong's eyes lit up. Why call me aunt? Call me big sister. I am your sister-in-law's little sister. Since she is sister-in-law's little sister, I will give her face. Hello, big sister. Mommy, this is too cute. Where did you buy this princess dress from? Not bad, I bought a lot of it too, but I didn't dare to wear it, afraid that other people would say that I am a lunatic. It's all right now, we can wear it together. Yihua said faintly, 2 lunatics. Really? Zizi also has a lot of beautiful princess dresses. Zizi, do you know what cosplay is? Yi Zizi shook her head, indicating that she was a newbie. Come, big sister has a lot of beautiful clothes, let me share with you. You're tuning into the Journey of the Soul YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.